It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear, but we are relatively concerned of all the stuff we got to do going into 26. What happened 25? Oh my God. You could have, stack up the years and the decades of each year and the main, oh my God, stuff that happened. And 25 was, another OMG year. Well, what we're going to do is we're prepping for 26 because it's on, it's so on. And that means, I tell you what it means, just from my experience of decades of doing this, and you're starting new kind of projects like this. 1, convert everything to Linux. 2, get new computers. 3, start worrying about security and kind of decentralized and getting off of whatever, and it doesn't matter. And when you do that, because there's all of these vectors that they use to attack, and we have been, because we got a new project that we're launching, and it's going to be a worldwide thing, and you just wait and see. And that is, I can feel it. I can give you a whole bunch of examples, but damn, you got to get above the grid. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of recap a little bit of 25, go over what's going on, and Phranq will get us up with that. But, welcome to the show, Trump Report, Ernest Hancock, Declare Your Independence, Trump Report with Dr. Phranq Tamburri. And Phranq's going to get us caught up on a lot of stuff. Last night they had, Trump's speech. Then we got to get into that. And a lot of stuff he didn't say that we were anticipating. So, Phranq, get us up to speed, man.
Welcome. Thanks a bit for the torture show of Trump Report, Tyranny Report. Guys, this probably might be the last one before Christmas, and hopefully we'll do one before the New Year, although it might be. Actually, think about it. New Year's and Christmas are both on our day, on Thursday, so we'll have to figure that out. But in any case, a lot going on, so much at the end of the year. We will get into, not right now, but we'll definitely table it. We have some things to discuss about the Rob Reiner situation that happened over this past week. And, of course, silver going up. And just a heads up, I'll say at the top of the show, I'm not sure if you even heard yourself, Ernie, but did you hear that Peter Schiff is he just was flown out and did a private sit down with Tucker Carlson at his house. So there's going to be a Peter Schiff Tucker episode dropping any day. So just keep your eyes out for that for the audience. But let's start off with the political world, because definitely, man, there's some bangers going on all at the same time. Are these all just individual events of an administration that's just bursting at the seams and the wheels are falling off just individually? Or are these coordinated? Is this the ultimate attack from the deep state and the neocons to destroy MAGA in a more creative, elegant way, instead of just going to the heart of the MAGA movement, which is maybe a bullet to Trump's ear? Instead, it's with a little more finesse. We'll sit there and we'll nibble around the edges and discredit different parts of MAGA and have it fall apart. Or is it was never meant to be? As Ernie would say, it just doesn't matter. You see, this is what I'm talking about. So I'll just say it for you, Ernie, so you don't have to say it. But there's a lot of things going on. We have the speech we're going to talk about. There's also, I don't know if you did hear it, but there's a new position is it the cabinet or the unofficial cabinet? Just like there's the Hollywood czars of Sylvester Stallone, and James Woods. I think it was made
Alien Tech.
But we have a new one, which is no, we have a pro-Israel czar, an anti-Semitism czar that has now been given like full services of the U.S. government to go out there and more support than anyone else. And I'm not sure if it's a new position or not. I need to investigate that too. I know, just so you know. So there's a full-on movement between the anti-Semitism czar, quote unquote, supported by our own government. You have what's going on with what's her name with 60 Minutes. We'll have this. Well, of course, the discussion of I can forget her name. The one who just took 60 Minutes. Anyway, they just put
Laura
her in.
Logan?
No. Jeez Louise, it was the lady that they just put in. The Israeli people put in. She used to work.
No, they did,
anyway, she interviewed
the Israeli babe. I get it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Sorry, audience. I mean, she just interviewed Erica Kirk, which is kind of blending those two worlds together. It's like everything's getting intertwined, isn't it? The whole Erica Kirk deal. I know it set Ernie off last week about the not just the politics, but the drama, which even I'm embarrassed to talk about. But the drama. It's almost like the Jerry Springer show into the conservative or MAGA movement about who hates who now, and Tim Pool and Candace Owens, and of course Piers Morgan finally got in on the act and had Candace on, and then there's a screaming match with Tim Pool, and also the kind of the implosion of the unification of what the MAGA base was for different reasons. And, a lot of it maybe it doesn't matter, but as far
Marjorie
as
Taylor Greene bailing was the best thing she could have done.
Absolutely.
I
don't want to call her a rat. I don't mean this, but they always say when the rats start to jump first, and I guess we have to use a better analogy out of respect for Marjorie Taylor Greene, but you're starting to see a lot of conservatives, people who were maybe fence sitters, sitting there realizing the direction the wind's blowing, and they're getting ready to jump. So we're going to see
strategic retreat.
And then, of course, along with that, whether you call him a rat or not, is Dan Bongino. We'll certainly get into that with him resigning. We have Susan Wiles, who I was saying but we had to redo the show this morning, but Susie Wiles, which I will take. I mean, Ernie's probably talked about her a bit on other shows with other people, but she's been top of on my list to discuss for the last few months. And for some reason, we just never get to the topic. But Susie Wiles is, in many ways, I believe, the Hillary Clinton like implant into the Trump administration. She's in the inner circle of Donald Trump. They call it the junkyard dogs. At least that's per the new Vanity Fair article that highlighted Susie Wiles. And the junkyard dogs are Trump's inner circle, like the inner sanctum. And that would be Caroline Leavitt, of course, the fantastic, we have to give her credit, press secretary. We're talking Susie Wiles, who seems to be really the one that's most in the shadows, but is really the injection of the if not the deep state, the neocons. And her number one pick, the person that she's been grooming all along with the Bushes, is, of course, Marco Rubio, who now Secretary of State, who was also part of this junkyard dog team. You also have Stephen Miller, who, politically, I kind of like what he does, but, I don't trust anyone at this point in that administration. There's also J.D. Vance, who's a very interesting character in this. I think as much as Ernie's always waiting for Trump the movie, there's a sequel, which is the J.D. Vance story. He's very quiet and almost unopposed. I mean, let's just say, he's not very showy. He's very political, very smart person. But I look at him.
Was he a senator or congressman?
Well, he's a senator. He was a senator.
You don't get to be senator and not, have ties. Just say it.
And especially as quickly as he did. When you see a young person, this is my problem with Bill Clinton way back in the day. And it wasn't even political. And this is something I haven't really talked much on the show, but back in the day, people say, why have an issue with Bill Clinton? I said, if nothing else, it's because of one interview where I heard that when he was a boy, used to play with his neighbors, and they would play the Kennedy Boys, which back then was kind of patriotic to do, and I think Clinton's brother, whatever, would play Bobby Kennedy, and then of course Bill would always play JFK, but they would play the Kennedy brothers, almost like playing cowboys and Indians outside, and that was kind of a cool story. It sounds like something very patriotic to do. But to me, that kind of always bothered me, just to be honest. I'm thinking, most kids, they want to be, a policeman, or maybe not Ernie, but, cowboy, or whatever, a bank robber, or whatever you would do when you were a kid. But to play the Kennedy boys, it's like you're already playing president. And when you're that young and you get catapulted into political, power so quickly, there's usually one of two reasons. Either A, you are politically brilliant, which often is the case, but B, and this is the most concerning, is that when you get catapulted that quickly, you owe a lot of favors, because you can't get there that quick without owing favors. Now, if you've worked your way through hard knocks and you worked your way up, or the people actually organically put you in, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, then that, to me, I think there's some merit to that, but also you're a threat to the system, aka Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? But when you're a Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Marco Rubio, when you go through this, when you get in political power early, in my estimation, you just start to build and you owe a lot of favors. It always makes me nervous. Doesn't matter political party, not that they matter. But anyway, you've got this very interesting jockeying going on with JD Vance and Marco Rubio, because JD, I think, is a wild card about where his loyalties are. I think the deep state thinks he's good to cover his tracks and seem like he's for Trump, but at the same time, are his loyalties really to Trump? Are they really to the neocon deep state, or to another group altogether, the tech deep state? The tech bros, the Palantirs. It's almost like there's a whole new type of feudalism that's kind of being put together from the tech lords, and they might squash both MAGA and the neocons. So I just feel like JD's just the wild card on this, and he's threading an almost impossible needle over the Israel issue, the MAGA base, the neocons, just the whole bit. I would just love to get in. He's just an intriguing guy that I'm really watching in more ways than one. But he's in that junkyard dog list as well. So there we go. Rubio, Miller, Vance, Levitt, and of course Susie Wiles. And there's a few others they think are probably hidden junkyard dogs that are not really out, which would be Jared Kushner, which many people behind the scenes know that he really is kind of still an advisor, but he got such much blowback last time that Trump basically does not acknowledge him. So there you go. So you have Susie Wiles. Since we're on the political discussion here, Susie Wiles, of course, seeming like she has been throwing the largest political Molotov cocktails on the MAGA administration or the MAGA movement since day one. Of course, at the end of the day, I don't care anymore. It's Trump's dealing. I mean, Trump and Ernie and I have had many fights on this show earlier on. I mean, well, we've had plenty, but before Trump got back in, I defended Trump 1.0 for different reasons, and many of you have heard me, discuss that. But for 2.0, no, I agree with Ernie. There's no excuses if you haven't learned your lessons yet. And to be surrounded by so many neocons and deep state people like Susie Wiles, who's clearly like the Hillary Clinton for the Democrat system and deep state and establishment, Susie Wiles is the equivalent. And I'm going to say one other thing that this is just speculation. This is just my opinion. It's not my professional opinion because I have not seen Susie Wiles as a patient. But if you look at her face and you look at her eyes, you look at the pictures, pull up Vanity Fair Susie Wiles right now if you want. Just pull up. You'll see the picture they used on the front cover, for God's sake, that she probably signed off on. If you look at the pictures that are already in public domain
Well, I'm looking
now,
at the picture, but it has her and a bunch of staff. You mean there's one of just her?
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of pictures from that photo layout. And almost every picture you see with her, even the ones that were meant to make
big,
her look
wide-eyed
good.
kind of.
Yep.
Yeah.
And who does that remind you of? Another female politician.
AOC, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, exactly.
David Rose,
it looks,
Pelosi. They're all the same.
Well, it's got that. Guys, I'm telling you, look at Hillary Clinton's eyes and look at Susie Wiles. They're almost like sisters, except one's Democrat, one's Republican, as if there's a difference. So she's got the same look. That's all I'm telling you. And as we'll get to later, since we're talking just quickly about the eyes, for those of you who don't know, when we've done quite exposés on antisocial disorder, also known as a true sociopath. Again, I am not officially calling her a sociopath. I'm just saying there's definitely a correlation with people with antisocial disorder. They have that, they call it the sociopath stare. And again, Ernie and I've talked about it in the past, but you just see it. Once you've seen it and you've been burned by these people, you never forget that look. And here you have Susie Wiles giving her, her best look for Vanity Fair with professional photographers. And, they were trying to make her look good. I mean, she's part of the system here, the establishment. Vanity Fair is trying to help in that regard. And that's the best look that they can give her because she can't get rid of those eyes. It's just, and again, I'm not saying she's a sociopath. I'm just saying there's a correlation you kind of see. There's also another person in the news this past week, and I don't want to jump into the story right yet, but since I'm on this point, someone else that has those interesting eyes. Do you know who it was that made the biggest news of the week, Ernie, with the eyes? Any guess? I'll give you a hint. It's a man. I'll give you
Cash Patel. I mean,
well, you know what? That's a runner-up. I'll give you that one. I'll give you a hint. This person committed matricide and patricide at the same time.
What? Reiner's son, or something?
Yeah, Nick Fuentes. Wait, Nick Reiner. Nick Fuentes. That was
you're in trouble now.
That was a slip up. I meant Nick Reiner. If you look at all the pictures, guys, that you're seeing all week, because there's not many pictures of him recently, they won't even release them now. But if you look at the videos, the old pictures, the family pictures of the Reiner family, and there's the two sons and the daughter, and you see all, 5 of them lined up. And they all have the smile. They all look like normal people, right? And then if you didn't know which one was, quote, the killer, and you just looked at that picture and you say, which one is the one that committed the murder, you could kind of just tell. I mean, this is back when he was off the drugs and everything else. You could just see every picture. He's got this strange affect with those eyes. I'm not, again, clinically saying that's what he is, but, it kind of just gives it away. There's something odd about those eyes. And, it sounds a bit superficial, judging people about looks, but there is such a thing. Look it up, sociopath stare. And who knows? But
it's just like when we were doing the study, kind of the best example is when someone has Down syndrome, it has physical traits. And so it's kind of the same thing with a lot of different disorders, the way your brain is and so on. They have physical traits, in a lot of things. During the eugenics push back beginning in the 1900s, the late 1800s, they were really focused on this, and they'd bring, look at this ugly SOB, man. And everybody that looks like him, we got to euthanize. So it was these physical traits they emphasize way more than, by their works or fruits will you judge them. And it's just, you go down that road, man, it's kind of bad. It's not that you should ignore everything, but I mean, really, if you went by how people look, or what ethnicity or race they are, or religion, that's kind of groupthink, and I'm not about that. So I'm just, it's the individual, and I don't care what they look like, but these things just keep popping up. Think of it: Pelosi, Hillary, AOC. They got that same kind of thing. Adam, was it Schiff? These guys.
Oh yeah,
the Bug Eye Club.
Yeah, and just a reminder for those of you for the sociopath talk is that it's roughly 4% of the human population, and by far, like 80 to 90% of antisocial human beings are males. I mean, if you just go visit a prison, you'll definitely see more than that higher percentage. But female sociopaths are extremely rare, but they're also very dangerous in our society because you don't think of a woman to be able to do the things that a sociopath can do. You always think of the stereotypical guy. But for a woman, and if the woman or man is born intelligent, that's the other little part to this. Sociopaths are born in all flavors, all different races and all different intelligence levels. So if you're a stupid person, you have a low IQ, and you're a sociopath, I mean, you're still a sociopath, but you're not going to get far. You'll probably be caught right away. But if you're intelligent and crafty, and you can use that sociopath gene like supercharged with high intelligence, wow. And then if you quadruple supercharged it with high octane, and Everclear, because you're a woman and you happen to be alive during a feminist revolution and Me Too and whatever else, and you always trust the women, right? You can always doubt the man, blame the man, but women can tell no lies, right? And man, that is a perfect recipe for female sociopaths. So I wonder if we're seeing a lot more from that. Anyway, to move off that topic, I just bring up though Susie Wiles. We should do more of a deep dive on her at some point. It looks like she's about to leave the administration. That's what the scuttlebutt is, because she's doing all these these articles. Normally she's very quiet. That's her modus operandi to be effective. Now suddenly it's almost like she's putting out her resume. You know, hey, I'm going to be on the circuit pretty soon for a cushy lobbying job. Which I thought was not supposed to happen, because Trump 1.0, one of the first bills he passed as president in 2016 was to say that people who work in the administration or, in the government cannot serve as a lobbyist for something like 4 years. Remember that? He passed that bill. It was like 4 or 5 years.
No, I remember. But then that was the first administration where he had guys that can go lobby. So now
right.
It's different now.
No, exactly. So just one more reason that the Trump administration is just falling apart.
No, okay, it doesn't matter.
And yep, you know what? One of these days, I'm just going to just sound like Ernie completely, and there won't be. And then
I'm
Ernie
just
wins.
waiting for the day.
I know Ernie just win, drops the mic. But anyway, so you have that, and then Susan Wiles also has been, pushing. She's really, like I said, the deep state, or at least the Republican establishment person. The John McCain probably acolyte. And obviously for the Bushes. And who else is pro-Bush? That's Marco Rubio. So Susie Wiles is really just the avatar for the neocons and the establishment Republicans. Why in the world Trump would have even one of them, let alone both of them, in that inner circle? And then he wonders why his whole, poll numbers all are just cratering, is beyond me. So it just always comes down to that question, like we always think with politicians. Do they know and not care? Or do they honestly don't know? Because, we are all in our different bubbles. And personally, I think Trump, not to take away some of his stupidity and, arrogance and everything else that he's doing to himself, I do honestly believe, though, that, Trump is brilliant in many ways. But I think he's also highly predictable from a psychological perspective. And I think when you're dealing with CIA people and the type of psychology or psychiatry technology that they can use, to understand people. I mean, it's brilliant what they do, and scary. I mean, I learned quite a bit about how people are, or the analysis and breakdown of people's personalities when I went to medical school. We had to take psychiatry or psychology classes for a few years, not to mention as naturopaths, we focus on the body and the mind and the spirit. So it certainly comes up, and it was fascinating classes. Obviously, I'm not going to get into it here, but you start to also see it from a paranoid libertarian's perspective about, wow, we know that, so we can predict X. So this is how the brain works. That's like an introduction classes in medical school. So I'm sure the deep state has this very refined, clearly. And Donald Trump, who's clueless, I think, about how real political. I mean, he's figuring it out now. But when he just ran as a business guy, very ignorant of really who these people are. I really believe that. And I think when you have someone who's a narcissist, as he is, once you crack his code, I think is easy to manipulate, as if just a very easy puppet, almost like Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden was a puppet because he just was not, cognizant anymore. And a lot of it was, and I discussed on the show, is when they gave him the anti-testosterone drug for his prostate cancer, that took away all of his testosterone, and you just literally go to sleep, hence Sleepy Joe. So he was controllable for his age, senility, and the medication. Donald Trump is being controlled for, basically he's being controlled, ironically, through his own arrogance and narcissism, and he doesn't see it. My biggest question is why his family, his kids can't see that. I mean, I'm sure his youngest son is watching Nick Fuentes and gets a taste of this. I mean, my nephews who weren't even politically engaged, I just found out this past week. They sent me links. They said, hey, Uncle Phranq, we heard this guy at college called Nick Fuentes. You should check him out. I got two nephews from two different colleges telling me that. So clearly the youth are all hearing what's going on. How Trump doesn't know, I don't know. But anyway, there's going to be a huge shakeup with this administration, or I mean, it's collapsing. But I think a lot of the people who know are all going to jump ship, including, of course, the other highlight is Dan Bongino. But so there's Dan Bongino. I'm going to throw it to you because I've been yapping a bit. I appreciate it, but your thoughts?
No, it's my Christmas present. You just go, girl.
This is my Christmas present.
Oh, lots of work done.
Wrapping gifts and all. So you don't have to gift wrap mine. So just let Phranq talk. But there's Dan Bongino I'd like to talk about, but also the Trump show. So we're speaking of his failing ratings. So let's first, with Dan Bongino, a quick point on that, then I'll throw to you your thoughts on his speech, because I'll definitely have some thoughts on that one. But Dan Bongino, I think...
Bongino's speech or Trump?
Well, the Trump speech. So before we get to Trump, let's just finish off about people jumping ship. Dan Bongino. So I think it's very telling. I deep inside, and I've always said this, I really do believe, and I don't say this often about anyone in politics, and you can disagree, but I really think Dan Bongino is a good guy. Like, I really think he's one of those deep inside. I think that's why he looked like he was lying all the time, because he was. And he's like HAL 9000. He's not designed to lie. I truly believe that. And that's why he was always so uncomfortable. He couldn't do it because he's too honest to be in politics. That said, I don't know if he'll be able to reconstitute his credibility after saying, just trust me, bro. You know, he killed himself, and then just silence and the way he handled it. Now, on one hand, you can say he did his job, with valor. I mean, he was there, picked by the president, and loyalty to the president and support, and that's what you need to do in that job. I could respect that on one level. On the other hand, that's not what he was put in there to do, is just to get along in that regard. I think he should have probably resigned a lot earlier in the very beginning when they were deep sixing the Epstein files. And he's certainly watching the Megyn Kelly show. He's watching the whole MAGA movement implode over Epstein. He's seeing the whole support for Trump implode over Epstein. He's seeing his own credibility and reputation for his future podcast implode over Epstein. And so, I mean, that's all this is about. You know, catching some bank robbers over state lines and then going, look, what we're doing for the American people isn't doing jack, you know what. So why he wouldn't have left earlier, I think, is his largest folly. But at least he's quitting out after 1 year. Maybe he figured, I have to at least give 1 year so it doesn't look that desperate. And I could respect that, too. You know, 1 year, at least you got 1 year under the belt. Leaving after 3 months would probably look as if you're forced out, which you probably don't want that either. So now the question is going to be, what will his future be? I'm sure he'll go back to podcasting. He was one of the highest live streamers, or ranked live streamers in the world, actually, before he left. I never really watched the show much. I caught a couple episodes, but he was up there. He was probably like an early Candace Owens before Candace really went nuclear. So can he go back for the show? I mean, clearly he owns Rumble. I think he still is an owner in Rumble, so he can put himself on the show. But it's going to be epic about the comments and whether he can get that credibility. The only way he can get the credibility is by giving spoilers over what he learned. There was a tweet that I guess it was a tweet. I guess it was on his Twitter thing. It came out around June or July. Everyone's been talking about it, Ernie. I'm not sure. I'll pull it up when I turn it back to you here. But he gave a tweet, basically just kind of cryptic, saying essentially, "I'm here to try to help the FBI. I was put in this position to do good, blah blah blah. But what I have learned, it shakes me to my core." Like he wrote that. What I've learned being in this, and essentially what the theme of his long tweet is that this country and the FBI and other things tied to it are more effed up than I had any clue about. And now, whether it's about how deep and dark things go, or if it's just how much bureaucracy keeps everything in lockstep and can't be changed, it's probably both. But it was a very profound statement, and everyone wanted him to comment more, and of course he didn't. Now he's going to be, the question is he off the leash or not? I mean, it's kind of like when you leave the mob, you never quite leave the mob. You know what I mean? So I really wonder, the only way he can get his credibility back is to say, okay, this is what I learned. I was given the blessing from the president to say whatever I want, for, you know, with obviously some restrictions. And we can't be talking about every open case at the FBI, but maybe that's his path to redemption, is to explain to us how we can really change it. Or are we just really that effed and it has to come from within the people, whatever. I mean, people have to know what it is that we're dealing with, or at least more and more normies to understand that Department of Justice, you might have to use air quotes, which for a lot of us, we already see it that way. So that will be, I'm really fascinated to see. I don't have a lot of hope for it. I think he's too compromised. And even if he means well, he'll have too many muzzles on him. Everything's going to be, oh, can't comment on that. Oh, national security, can't comment on that. So I think he's pointless and useless. And I don't trust him at this point, although I think he means to be a good guy. Tim Pool, not that I watch him anymore, he dropped a video just celebrating the fact this is the greatest news. It's very scary, though, that Dan Bongino is being, quote, forced out or doesn't feel the need to be there. But he thinks that it's going to be awesome. His new show, he's finally going to show and expose everything. And I can't believe Tim Pool would even fall for that. But so it seems to be there's some hope out there, but that's my thought. Any thoughts on Dan Bongino before we get to Trump's sales speech last night? What do you think Dan's going to do?
Share eventually. You know, I think it eats at him, and he's going to go ahead and share stuff. If not now, later, sooner or later, someday, sometime. This is why when you do have good people that go in and make the attempt, they're just like, oh my God, this is definitely not the way to do it. You going in, but I got a shiny badge and appointed by another shiny badge to shiny badge you. And then we're going to, change all. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. I've seen the sausage made way too much. Hell, sausage, how politics works is just give sausage a bad name. I mean, come on. So what happens is Elon Musk comes in. You get, a lot of the kids that he brings in, they want to, Patrick Byrne. You have, a lot of people here, in Arizona, I can rattle off a bunch of names. The real libertarian activists, people that left the Republican Party to come over and be principled and and the infiltration is everywhere. And there's no hard core truth touchstone. Just one, don't lie. Truth, what's that? Your truth, what's the truth? Not lies. How about that? Let's start with that. And to make anything like the truth is the goal or truth is the standard, that is what is necessary, and you can't do that in politics, in government. The entire concept of being ruled by an elite, a small group, a shiny badge wearer that has the power over your life, that is the problem. And you can't, futter around the edges of that and think you're going to fix it, because fundamentally it is wrong. It's not broken. It's fixed. Like as the fix is in. Now, of course, it's fixed. It's not correct or working right, but it's definitely fixed. So, and same thing. This is why the Venezuela thing is a big deal, because all of the major election fraud, there's a bunch other, but this is Patrick Byrne's thing. He said, they set up shop in Venezuela and threw and everybody in contact and pick me. And a lot of people blame the Democrats. During the 90s here in Arizona, one, it was both of them, but the lead on this, it was all allowed and facilitated and turned the other way by the Republicans. So, man, everybody, all them damn Democrats, bullshit. The deep state does not recognize an RD or whatever after your name. They don't care. I care not who makes the laws, but who controls the money. So it's been a bank robbery. And they go, yeah, but there's still a little bit of flesh, on the dead whale carcass, and the great whites, they're not done yet. We're not done. It's dead. It's definitely dead. It's sinking. But we're not done. We're not done yet. We need to get. We got to make sure the whale babies don't have anything to bury. I mean, or something. I mean, it's a frenzy. So they're racking up the credit card right before they declare insolvency or bankruptcy or whatever. But now they're mixing the Federal Reserve with the Treasury to the point that it's kind of the same thing, and you can't tell the difference. Your money supply is because when they did this in the mid 2000, like 2005, I think it was, or something. They stopped reporting. What was it? M1, 2, 3, whatever, the money supply. But it had to be reconstructed. That's how we knew, a lot of some of the economists that we have on and so on, because I was looking for an answer. I'm going, look, man, they hid that. Well, you can reconstruct it with this and this and this and this and this. And then it was pretty obvious because with computers and different pools of information, they could do it. But they definitely didn't want you to. And now they're making it to where you can't. So it is so many signs that it's so freaking over. And when you have, a really dry martini currency with a little perfume atomizer, a little vermouth, a little bit of gold on it, like, BRICS unit that they're coming out with, petrodollar's done. And it's going to be, no, we didn't care. We're doing this here stable coin. That's tied to what? Dollar? Well, what difference does that make? You got crypto dollar now that you're programming? That didn't make it better. That made it worse. So what are you talking about? Well, what about gold and silver? It's getting to the point that the education, it doesn't work to the point that people will realize they have to do it themselves. I anticipate silver is going to be a big thing, but, gold backs, the polymer coated actual, atom deposition of gold on the paper. You can feel the weight too. You can put them in your pocket, but their gold backs are, really going up. They're exponentially growing, and they're not getting enough notice, but it's going to be all of a sudden, boom, and there they are, and people are going to be getting them. But the premiums on gold and silver, how they're stacking it, who's using it, taking delivery, we're tracking all of this stuff. And it is, I'm thinking, we have, you and I have a wealthy friend that was telling me months ago, he's going, donations, would you take silver? Hell yeah. We done that a lot of times that we'll, give me silver. Of course I keep it. I don't use it, but, so yes, I'll do that. He goes, well, can you get it liquid? You're going to be all right. You can go to that. Yeah, no, we got people and dealers and stuff. If I need the cash, if I have to, we can do that. You want to donate to me a bunch of stuff, you knock yourself out. Well, I'm going, but, when it hits like 300, we're going to have other issues to deal with. It's not going to be, woohoo, look how much silver is while, nuclear mushroom clouds is on the horizon. I'm of course, so I'm not feeling good. He goes, yeah, but about $70. I think we'll be all right at 70. Well, it's hitting 70. I'm going, man, what did he know? So it was, it's not unpredictable. It is so, and like you were talking, I think you mentioned, or in the pre-show, we were talking about Peter Schiff going on Tucker. Well, we saw that. I think we put it up and, saw that he's going on, traveling to Tucker Carl, making a big deal out of that. Well, that's just going to do, Peter Schiff was right again, tour. And it starts with Tucker, and everybody's going to go, this guy's been saying he did it last time, the housing thing, did it. Might as well be Michael Burry. And which is, Burry's coming out, the big short guy that shorted the housing market and how he did it with whatever. He's coming back. He's resurrected. He bailed out of the stock market. Man, no, it's so bullshit. Whatever you done, you sit on the sidelines, get liquid, do something, and wait for the opportunities or whatever. Doug Casey, same thing. Now's when the fortunes are being made.
Yeah.
And where are they getting it from? John Q. Public, the middle class. You used to have money, and now you were the world's elite, the middle class. Mom stayed at home. You had 1-2 cars and, 2.6 kids, and, dad, had a decent job and was off on the weekends, and everything was fine, and they had retirement, and it's gone. So this is, it's happening right, not later. It's now. And what people are paying attention to is not what they should be paying attention to. I just finished a video for the Nonconformist series of Narcapoco that plays at the end of the month. And I had to have it ready by the 15th, and I have to order, new computers and everything because Windows 11 sucks butt. Now, I have Linux other for the studio and all this other stuff, but I need, more powerful computer that, Linux. I'm going Linux, Apple, don't care, Linux. Linux everything, do it, because they got programs that compete with everything anyway. And we got to redo it because we're going to be doing a new project for the world. Starting, beware, the Ides of March. Is going to go hard launch. We'll launch probably way before then, but we're getting everything ready. Well, I have to go to Linux. I have to change our servers and everything for, bots. We're finding out the reason we want to make sure that I tell you this stuff so you can understand the preparation for what's coming. We have to make it to where our subscribers and people using and making use of Freedom's Phoenix and our sites and so on have a good experience. They're not frustrated, screw this, too slow, bite me, what. So we turn off a whole crap of search engines and bots, because Google just doesn't have a Google search or bot that goes through your site. No. They got one from this country, 5 gazillion from China, a bunch of other you guys, and then, all right, yeah, we got here, wham, and they just, it's like a DDoS attack. Oh, no, we were just scraping because we needed 4,000 copies of it. I'm just going, no, screw you guys. So we turn a lot of that stuff off. Then we kind of eke in how we can finagle, still getting site mapped without whatever. We're doing that stuff now. And the reason is because that's one of the mechanisms that they go after for slowing down virility of a lot of content. And we have, decades of all of this research of categories of everyone. You do a search on a person, God forbid on Freedom's Phoenix, boom! You want to see any and everything, all the stuff that we and God forbid AI does the transcription, which they're doing now for our shows. So I'm just going, yep. They don't want to have Freedom's Phoenix out there being, what they said. So this is why we're in a constant battle behind the scenes with how do we serve our subscribers and other people and new people and make it accept kind of what, and make the user experience good for those that are already on board. So this is a thing, and we're going through all this. AI has its own. AI is it's so good example of garbage in, garbage out. The entire internet is Wikipedia BS. A lot of stuff, and that's why. And you could see it for sure in politics when Pelosi and Adam Schiff would get up and say the stupidest shit about during the first Trump administration, nothing that really happened. They would say this about January 6th, that I'm going, why would they obviously come out and lie? Because they were seeding the internet. And I go to Grok, I go, what weight on a 1 to 10? I mean, do you give, the validity of the information, from Wikipedia? 7 out of 10. Which I thought was kind of high. And then I go, what about politicians? The agency and the FDA and the Center for whatever and the stuff. And I'm going, I don't give a shit what they say. Really? That's your criteria? Well, we don't give them a 10, but so you can see, and we talked about it on the show, when Pelosi and Schiff were saying stupid, why would they say that? It's so obvious crap because they're seeding the internet. They're putting it in for the future history books. Speaker of the House, Pelosi said this about that, so therefore it must be given, an 8.6 out of 10 credibility because she said it. And I don't believe a damn thing she said. So how do you program that? Well, you got a lot of woke guys and programmers and young, and they don't know any better anyway. So what are they doing? So this is why it's so important for us to have, the podcast thing. This is why the United Kingdom is going, oh, hell no. You're not allowed to say it. You said it. Now they show up at your door and you get a demerit and time served and arrest you. It's an info war. Exactly what Alex has been doing. You got to give him props. And then you have, a bunch of these others. So this goes back to Bongino. Bongino was, What did I say the future is all about? What's it about? What's it about?
Credibility.
Credibility. And Bongino built up this credibility, brought it there, lost his, didn't really have any, benefit for the FBI or the people's confidence and whatever. Then he goes out. Is he going to be able to build back that credibility? Well, he's going to have to renege on whatever deal he made, because I guarantee they had a deal, thou shalt not talk about whatever. I was asked by Corbett about Roger Ver, and kind of stuff we're working on, with the Xano crypto and so on, and a presentation I did for Anarchapulco, the online summit, and I finished that video. It's like 36 minutes or whatever, but it was very dense. It was very cool. And I really enjoyed it, but it was a pain in the ass making. But I go, by the time this comes out, you're going to know Roger has not been sitting on his hands. Even while he's going through his arrest in Spain, while they're holding him, finally they make a deal. All right, $48 million, and kind of a little behind the scenes that you shut the F up for the rest of the Trump administration. So that's, we have ways, like Schumer would say, 6 ways from Sunday to go get you Silk Road people and J6 people and Trump people, and you think you're going to do anything, people will go get some.
Can I have this quote? This is Dan Bongino. Before we get back off Dan Bongino, this is the tweet, and James O'Keefe retweeted it because I think Dan erased it. But here it is, just real quick. This is from Dan for about June of this last year. During my tenure here as the deputy director of the FBI, I have repeatedly relayed to you that things are happening that might not be immediately visible, but they are happening. The director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and the political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations. It is a priority for us. But what I have learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. We cannot run a republic like this. I'll never be the same after learning what I've learned. We are going to conduct these righteous and proper investigations by the book and in accordance with the law. We are going to get the answers in capitals we all deserve. As with any investigation, I cannot predict where it will land, but I can promise you an honest and dignified effort at the truth. Not, quote, my truth or, quote, your truth, but the truth. Right? God bless America and all those who defend her. Respectfully, Dan. So, you could read into that or not, but that's what a lot of people are pointing to. So what will this look like when he steps out of the office?
Well, what's changed since then? How sit down, shut up was he told, threats of whatever. And then there's always this honeypot thing. And, you just want to know if, Kash Patel's new, super babe is a, Red Sparrow or something. I mean, God, nothing surprises me anymore.
I think the next bombshell, or if you call it, every day's a bombshell now, is going to be the next quote unquote Epstein release. Because remember that whole fight over the bill, Marjorie Taylor Greene gets exiled, on and on and on. And people now still think that now that Congress passed the law, we now are going to finally get the files. And when we don't, and they're redacted, it's going to be redacted and all kinds of excuses. I think that's going to wake up even those that are the hangers.
Yeah, where's all them JFK files?
Yeah. So I think when this drops, Dan Bongino, of all people, knows the backlash that's going to happen on this administration, despite everything that happened.
Get out!
Yeah. I think they see it now. So with all
let me go ahead and finish.
Go ahead.
Interrupt my Roger thing. So Roger kind of took a, we'll just kind of stand down because he understands those. He doesn't care and it doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever. We're going to whatever. And so the whatevers and a lot of little projects and stuff that, like I'm sure he's associated with 15 gazillion people. And but we have a little special place in the heart of some of these guys because we have a use case out here. We put up the mesh network. We're getting the outer net. We have, Agris Market, that Drew got from Mike Swatek, and we're developing that. We're doing. And like a good neighbor, Ernie and Donna's there with a backhoe. So everybody, not only will I help you dig your septic, not only will I help with your flood damage, not only will I smooth out your driveway, I'm going to help you load up a Xano wallet and give you some Xano. And then we can actually do some work and you can pay me in. God, that's how Bitcoin was expanded. That's what happened. And that's why I got, $100,000 hoodies and no Bitcoin. But the point is that it was not this store of value thing I was worried about. It was digital cash. Whenever I saw the store of value, I'm out, done, don't care. But it's going to go to the moon, you're going to admit, don't care. Don't care. Don't freaking care, because I'm not going down that road. You guys are liars, and I'm going over here to other cryptos that do what I want. So, and that's what you want more. You want to invest in that which you want to see more of. So that's what I did. And then, Bitcoin Cash starts getting attacked. So I need something that can take crypto technology and free us from the promises that they made from the beginning, that it was fast, that it was anonymous, that it was secure, that it was cheap, that it was open, source, that. I go, when you do that, I'm all in. Till then, you guys can suck it, because I'm not giving them, I don't care, and it doesn't matter. What's the difference between that technology, solar power, energy, hydro, all the things that you learn to live a decentralized life, and communication and commerce and healthcare and food and water and transportation, education, automation, my own, Jarvis robot that's not linked up to Alexa, going to kill me at night thing. What happens when that is developed? What do I need a government for? What do I need, be on the grid when I'm above the grid? I go, it doesn't matter. Well, what they do is they go, it matters because it matters, and you better care about it mattering because we're going to matter you, And I'm just, nope. It's a mindset. And that's why I keep saying, it's not that I don't know what's going on. It's not that I don't care how it impacts people, but they're their own solution. All they have to do is go, yeah, no, I'm separating from that, and I'm good. I don't care. One of the big things that our friend Bob, at Phranq knows, and a lot of us out here, and I started to get a lot more from the participants, on the communication channels for Occupy the Land. They're starting to build on this. They're finding different things, different energy stuff, different techniques for whatever. But one of the things is, how did the natives live in the desert for thousands of years? What was the secret? They had big combines. They did the corn. What the hell was it? What were they eating? Lizards? I mean, what was it? There are so many food crops that are not made for big combines. They're not made for centralized farming. They're not made for that kind of thing. And they don't have the profits or the yields, or produce the side, products of, make you stupid, fat, and sugary or something. I mean, whatever it was, they eliminated all these other seeds and crops that used to be subsistence for human beings for thousands of years. They find in clay pots sealed in Egyptian mummy tomb kind of stuff. And then they come out and say, oh, this particular thing, like even sorghum, that was one of them. Here is this particular plant. It's resistant to drought. It grows in freaking everywhere. It does this. It has the higher protein than freaking, meat. It does, yada, yada, yada. Here it is, but it's a weed. And we got a Monsanto product. Kill that damn weed. Yeah, eradicate it. We want extinction of that potential food source that you don't need us anymore. So this is what we're starting to find out. That is the benefit of communication. That's the benefit of storage of data. That's the benefit of the internet. That is the benefit. How do I fix, change, do whatever, something? How the hell do I get all this Windows shit off of my Windows 11 Dell computer that's, 64 gig RAM with the blah, 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 and it works like crap? I paid $1 gazillion for this thing years ago. I go, how do I get, well, Grok is like, well, first you get rid of this, and you do this, and you do that, and you do, well, it changes and breaks some stuff, but, oh my God, the thing's like boots, and I can use it. So this is, I'm going Linux on everything. We then, like, the show's done on Linux just because all the updates would break everything. Every morning I have to redo everything because it wouldn't work. So this is because they want you, it'll work good. If you get everything and all the phone home and everything that you said and take a shot of your screen every 3 seconds and doing that, bite me. So that's why I do not care what they're leading us down. And this PSYOP, you got to be able to do, a friend of mine, I was talking to Corbett about this, a year or two ago, and he did a whole episode on it, eye bouncing. When you don't want to be, imprinted on, be it politics, wars, whatever the hell, how much cleavage or legs or butt showing on a commercial of, Pepsi wears tights. I mean, whatever the hell it is, you just eye bounce. I don't want to be influenced by that crap. I'm not a prude, but I just don't want to be, propagandized in everything.
Hey, what is eye bounce? I don't know what that is.
A friend of mine, Scott, you may know Scott, but, he's a good Christian. He's a deacon in his church. He's at least 2-3 times in church every week. And, we know him from Bible study. We've been like best of friends since, the late 80s. I mean, his family and mine grew up together as, having babies. I mean, that kind of thing. And we've been good friends ever since. And, when we go out, we'd always go see the new James Bond movie, or the Mission Impossible, that kind of action flick, He-Man, woman-hating stuff. We're going to be all Tim Allen. So we go out, and we go out to dinner, whatever, and get the New Times, like a weekly, tabloid, and kind of look at the movies in the back. Well, back there, in the entertainment section, was all of the gentlemen's clubs or, 1-900 Babe or whatever the hell it was. So you'd have, these scantily clad something in lingerie or whatever, but there's the movie listings. And he wouldn't look. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I go, here, we can do this, go there. After a while, I started to notice that whenever we're at some restaurant and the waitress comes over and, flaunting her cleavage or this, he'd just look away. I mean, it was getting to be, kind of a thing. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? He goes, eye bouncing. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, I don't want to lose the passion I have for my wife. So I bounce. I don't dwell. I see, okay, I got a glimpse. I see what's up. It's not like I haven't seen breasts before, but, he just eye bounces. He doesn't allow that crap to penetrate him. And he does the same thing with everything. The only thing that's important to him, his life, his morality, his children, his God, he focuses on that. And I'm going, okay. So since then, and this has been decades, that when it's politics, when I say, I don't know, I don't care, doesn't matter, it's because I specifically do that. Now, I'll take the article, I may kind of summarize whatever and send it to staff to put up, and I know about it, and we talk about it, and I know enough to talk about it, but I'm always asking different questions. Why? Why is this important? Why do you know? Why? How does this distract from this? What propagandizing are they doing? What new war are they going to have? What new fear porn? What new, here comes the COVID porn again. I just don't care. And then that's why I say, well, the secretary of the whatever, if I know it wasn't intentional and I'm embarrassed, I even know, it's like the Kardashians or Madonna or Britney Spears or Taylor Swift, oh my God, whatever I know about them was totally unintentional, and it freaking, just bombarding the internet with this crap. So I'm just going, I don't know how to spell their name, but I know they got a name. I mean, whatever. So this is why I'm not focusing on this stuff, because that's what they want. They're sucking you in that this is more important than, the seeds that they've hidden from you for 100 years. I know this doesn't matter. That matters.
Right.
So that's why, and Corbett did a whole thing on it. You go, James Corbett eye bouncing, he did a whole thing. And the cover, the thumbnail that he had was the woman in the red dress from Matrix. I thought that was awesome, So this is, what I'm talking about. When I go, I don't care, it doesn't matter, it's because I've made a conscious decision, one, not to let them penetrate into my brain and get us all yakking about whatever, it doesn't matter. And from that, I don't care. because it's not important. So the video that I did for the Nonconformist series of Anarchapulco that airs at a virtual summit at the end of this month, that you guys go check it out, Nonconformist Summit, you pay a fee and you watch all these guys over, I don't know, it's maybe a couple days, that, you know, it's a virtual summit, like you're going to Anarchapulco about a lot of this stuff, and they asked me to do this on commerce. You know, what it is, you know, agorist. Well, that's a perfect example of what we're doing. One of the editors of our videos is also for them, and I know these guys anyway, so they're like, I mean, you got to get Ernie, man, this is exactly what he's doing. So when I sent that in, they're like, yeah, hell yeah, this is okay. You know, we see what you're doing. But it had to be why? Because we know what's coming. It's here. It's now. So everybody going on about what, woo, I got on paper, look how rich I am. No, you're not. And I made sure my kids know this. I go, whatever your 401k, your retirement, your percentage of the stock you get with your company, of they kind of go, what is it, paper? Is it paper? Is it in your safe? Do you have access to it? Is it liquid? Is it cash? Is it out of a bank? If it's on paper and it's some computer screen or statement you get that says it's yours, it ain't. Just saying. Am I clear? Do you understand my opinion? Yeah, Dad. Okay, that's it. I'm good. You don't hear me talk about it anymore. I just want to make sure you understand. Well, now it's starting to go. Or one of my daughters calling, Donna, their mom, saying, what's the silver place that you guys do for a show? Yeah, that's what I thought. So, this is coming, and it is going to happen regardless of how many mushroom clouds they have or anything. And that was one thing that we started, nuclear war, comply no more. That's it. Once you have a mushroom cloud, whatever job you had to not have mushroom clouds, you failed, and I'm not complying with any of your shit anymore.
Right.
I'm not like I do anyway, but, this is why. Now, before you go again, let me, jot down here all the stuff that we promised to talk about. The Reiner murder, you kind of already went on that, and their son, sociopath, whatever. And I'm
going to go more details on that later.
Okay, well, that sucks. Reiner, he's, a statist, liberal, libtard, whatever. But I really liked his movies. He's the guy that did Princess Bride, so I was like, yeah. So, Reiner was, loved and, whatever. But the Trump speech, we haven't gone on that yet. We kind of covered Schiff on Tucker, and wait till that comes out. This Erica Candace meeting and what's going on there, that is definitely getting up there with I don't care and it doesn't matter, but it's, bringing out a lot of stuff. We got the non-compliance series of Anarchapulco that's coming out at the end of the month. You just go to Anarchapulco and put it up, and it'll tell you all about it. The alien tech, this is Trump created a department, division, czar, something that is taking alien tech. I mean, might as well just come out and say it. We got alien tech. They're Men in Black. It's like Men in Black with, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, Smith and Jones, alias Smith and Jones. They, doing the movie Men in Black, and that's kind of what they are admitting. Yes, we have all this tech, and now we're going to release it to industry. Who gets it? Me. Fred, little Johnny in 8th grade. What the hell are you talking about? No. Boeing Lockheed got to get it. They donated to my presidential library. I mean, what? So anyway, they're deciding how this is going to get leaked out. So they're kind of admitting that, yeah, we got alien tech. We always did. You know what? God, you conspiracy nut thinking that we weren't going to tell you? I mean, seriously. So the pro-Israel czar thing that you brought up, whatever.
Hey, by the way, wait, before we go even further, you mentioned the alien tech. Following with the alien tech, did you hear about the not one but two nuclear fission scientists that both got
Yes,
whacked?
I did. We'll talk about it after I finish this list, and we'll go through that. Susie Wilds, the Vanity Fair thing we have up, and, go put it on the site and do whatever, and I don't care, and it doesn't matter. Same old crap. It's just PR for whatever. And the Venezuela thing, and the speech, Trump we thought there was all kinds of talk. He was going to talk, and everything's great, and how great are we? And we're all great, and we're going to war with Venezuela. I mean, but they didn't mention Venezuela, so we'll see. Then the Bitcoin and crypto crashes, and what's going on, up and down, who's making the money, and Michael Saylor out, BSing his way out of whatever. And a lot of people don't know that his group that's been buying up the Bitcoin, you can buy like shares of stock in that company that then takes that money and profits and goes buys more Bitcoin. But when it goes down, they got these dividends that they have to cover, people going out. They have to sell at a lower rate when people are demanding it. It's like a short squeeze, kind of how they do silver, and they set themselves up to, oh my God, they are so vulnerable because of the structure. And this is why I was going around in my video. I'm saying, look, how many times have we seen this happen? They pump and dump and they do this, that, and everything because they will glean the money. They're going to screw you. I'm just saying, because they can. So there's so much going on, in which one of these am I supposed to care? And which one of these matter more than me making food and educating my kids and having communication with my neighbors and being able to be like a good neighbor? Ernie and Donna's there with a backhoe. What on this list is more important than that? What? Not a freaking thing. And that's why it's all bullshit. And the only reason I do the Trump report with Phranq, because I love Phranq, is that, it's just to prove, to show, to demonstrate how little this shit matters. It doesn't matter. Well, it'll matter when they something, and whatever it is, you go, oh yeah, if they do that, that would matter. So of course they do it. They hype it up. They make a big deal out of it. And next, more pandemic. I mean, we're going to have a real, see, I was not worried about COVID being a problem. I was worried about COVID being a weapon that they created, that they already had. Well, they're still doing it. They're one of these days they're going to have it. Damn, that didn't work out well. That escaped. We need to something. It's always they, them, those that won't leave us alone. And until we get to the point to where we have stopped in our minds delegating our future, our happenstance, our pursuit of happiness, our creation of our world around us, until we understand that we can't expect anybody else to act in our self-interest more than us. I mean, some saint or something or whatever, maybe Jesus or God, but I mean, who else is going to get to that level? They're not doing what they want for them, certainly with their lens. It'll benefit you right after it really benefits me. It's not going to hurt you too much. It's just a little bit. You got 50 gazillion departments and guys and czars and everybody doing that. So this is when we realize that this delegation of authority and shiny badge wearing and lab coat and shiny ties, and we pick team this to do for us what we want, until we realize that is stinking thinking. It's going to continue. So that's why we have to do the philosophy of liberty, self-ownership, decentralization stuff, demonstrate it, show it, give use cases for it, advocate for it, live it, and then we'll be okay. I really believe that. But that doesn't mean there's not somebody out there with a gun that's going to make you. Because if they can't coerce you, they can't scare you into it, they're going to make you into it. That's what governments has always been. How can we make the chicken, the livestock, the cows productive and still be our cows? How do we glean all the eggs? How do we get all the wealth? Well, you give them the illusion of freedom, the illusion of choice, the illusion that they get that they live in a state of liberty, and that makes them productive. Then you go and you scrape the shit out of it. So that's what's going on. And when you get to the point to where they're a parasite. They're monkey on my back, IV in my blood. I mean, it's no. So all of these issues here are just variations of the same thing. Somebody else knows better what to do with your money and your resources and your time and your children than you do. get over it. I got a shiny badge. And when we stopped that, which was what America, the road we were going down, but they still wanted to have a government. They needed some kind of government. We'll have a good government, but it's going to be a government. We're going to govern. Get over it. We get past that, then all of a sudden all this stuff goes away. You know, it's like the monetary stuff. Well, it's this, that, kind of stroke dash, whatever. And, you know, I saw a commercial. They were, you know, promoting some AI thing or whatever. And he goes, yeah, give me a summary on Keynesian whatever. What the hell was that about? They were promoting Keynesian economics. It was just another, you know, data feed in your brain of that is economics. I'm going, what the hell? You know, if they would have said, you know, agorist or Austrian economics or something like that, then you got something. But, you know, no, hell no. It's all propaganda. Every freaking where I look. Everywhere. What we talk about here, everything. So with that said, it's back to Phranq, and we'll go over whatever this, but in your mind, you know that I'm thinking, doesn't matter and I don't care, okay? And this is why. Go, Phranq. Let's do the alien tech thing. I think that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, well, actually, that was more. I didn't know about that one. You trumped me on that. The only reason I brought that up back is the alien tech czar, or with money, and they're acknowledging some alien tech, and yet the tech that we have in our own country, or at least humanity that we know of, fusion energy. And, you know, it's always been around the corner. And just in the last week, you know, I heard not one, but two, you know, fusion scientists got whacked. And I think one's MIT, and I guess, you know, they died mysteriously two different locations.
And what was the graphic that I had staff put up with that? What do you think? Chain reaction with Morgan Freeman and Keanu Reeves.
Right.
That's exactly what that movie was about.
So for the record, Ernie, I just heard about it just the other day superficially. I didn't do a deep dive. Is there anything else before you throw the ball back to me here? Is there anything else on those two murders? And what details do you know about them?
I don't. I just they happened along with this alien tech thing.
Yeah, isn't that
coincidental? Total Capital files for alien tech ETF. What? They're already getting them, you know, they're making some money. You know, they're going to get into it. Breaking. Total Capital files for alien tech ETF. Ticker is $UFOD. Aiming to invest in companies benefiting from reverse engineered alien technology based on U.S. government disclosures about UFOs and UAPs. This isn't based on speculation. It's grounded in real filings.
Yep.
So this is like, you know, they got, you know, the fund filed under the ticker UFOD. God, disclosure stuff. And this is right when, you know, Spielberg has a movie coming up, you know, at the end of the spring in 26 about disclosure. It's full disclosure. Yep. We're going to have, there'd be aliens, you know, after he did, you know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. They, let me finish this paragraph. Reverse engineering alien technology. The fund, filed under the ticker UFOD, isn't framed as speculation or novelty. The registration language is unusually direct. It proposes allocating yada, 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 yada. So this is, and then you got Trump coming up with a, you know, a tech czar of something, you know, doing this kind of crap. So here we go. And you know what? Yeah, I'm like, they're either, you know, Vulcans or Klingons. You know, live free and prosper, and, you know, whatever. And then the Klingons are going to take me to your leader so I can kill him and be in charge of you. I mean, you know, it's one or the other. It's always the same choices.
Well, we had a big knockdown on that one. I actually disagree. I think you can have something more meta than Klingons and Vulcans, but we'll save that debate for later. What I find interesting is for a lot of you who may not know, the reason that these Senate hearings are happening, congressional hearings over UFO disclosure, you know, a lot of the diehard UFO people have had to been reminded that these meetings are not happening because the government now feels it's time for the American people to know the truth. That's not what it is. It's really about, apparently, the tech companies, the new money people, not the DuPonts and the old money and the old defense contractors like what is it, Boeing or whomever. It's not them. It's the new money. People like probably Elon Musk. I don't know this for a fact. With Elon, he claims he doesn't even believe this stuff is out there, although I kind of disagree. But it's a lot of these big tech companies that know, they have connections. They know that this is real, and they're frustrated they don't have access to the technology, that it's only the old guard still has the tech. They want in. And as they get more and more power, through just the stocks alone, Google or whatever, and all the subsidiaries, they're basically buying access to it. So think about the two players that we have. Think about, we had talked about the junkyard gang, the inner sanctum of Donald Trump. And aside from Susie Wiles, and I mentioned, with Stephen Miller and all of them, what you have is J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio has been, to his credit, out in the open about the UFOs existing before most all politicians. In some ways, you have to give credit to the Democrats, because it was not Mitch McConnell. It was who was the Senate Majority Leader, the Democrat, Harry Reid.
No,
it was Harry Reid. Harry Reid.
Oh yeah, because he was Nevada, and he was big in with Bigelow and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And Harry Reid was the one, as Senate Majority Leader under Obama, he was the one who came out on record saying, yes, these things exist, these UAPs, they're flying around. And after he retired, he didn't have many years before he passed after he retired, he went on film and gave some of the real banger interviews that coincided with the New York Times article, that we talked about on the show in 2000.
Yeah, not that I care what Harry Reid says, but
that all made this. Well, yeah, this UFO issue is kind of one of the few areas where both sides are at least have a detente, and
you want full disclosure? We'll let Harry Reid do it. Nobody will believe him.
So you have Harry Reid on one side, and a few other politicians, but the only other politician of noteworthy at the time was Marco Rubio. So you have one prominent Democrat, one prominent Republican, and there's been others since. But Marco Rubio really is kind of into this. Trump's kids, Trump Jr. really is. But let's just be. And a new documentary just came out. I forget the name of it. Just a UFO documentary. It's been like 3-4 years in the making. Just came out. It's been really popular in UFO circles this last couple of weeks, and it highlights Marco Rubio in there and other politicians. It's like 20. It's the most noteworthy because of the most senior military and government officials on record admitting that these things are out there. Yeah, I'm not trying to make this the whole UFO show, but I will get the video name when I throw it back to you a little bit later. I'll get it for the audience. But that's what's noteworthy about it. And many of these government officials, the reason it took a while to make this documentary is because each of these people would say, yes, these are true. And they said, well, would you go on record? Well, I don't want to go on record and be the only one doing that. So it was kind of like one of those old cartoons where each person was promised that if you film your interview, we will not release it unless these other government people also are on record. And so each of these people were waiting for everyone else to come out of the closet as well. And so this director had to play this poker game to promise that they would not release the interviews until, X number of prominent people were on the list. And he finally got them. It took that many years, and then it was just released. Marco Rubio was one of like the anchor people because he was already out of the closet on it. My point, though, is that Rubio is, in the UFO disclosure world, one of those that's been pushing it the most for disclosure. Now, is it because he's really interested or because he has high-paying friends in the defense world? Because the neocons, that's where their money is, right? So you kind of wonder, you don't trust anyone. I don't trust anything with Rubio, but he put his name out there on it. Then we have J.D. Vance, the other junkyard dog, right? And J.D. Vance is friends with Palantir and Teal, and of course, and that whole sector, which are the companies that want in. So Vance represents the new money that wants in, and Rubio represents the old money of the defense contractors. So, and they're both on either side, kind of like the I don't want to say the angel and the devil, but when you've got the two little birds on the shoulder, tweeting into, literally tweeting into Trump's ear. So I think there's a dynamic to be watched there with the UFOs. All right, so moving on, I just want to comment on a number of things.
All right, well, let me give a highlight of stuff I pulled up here real quick.
Think about the last time you had to cancel a subscription.
The Dr. Stephen Greer was an emergency room doctor or whatever in East Coast, Carolinas or something like that. And he did a National Press Club thing in about 2005, around in there. And we had him on the show. He was a speaker at one of our Freedom Summits. He's just hammering on this issue. There was a gazillion different organizations and people that we knew, and kind of it's long story. But his whole thing is it's more like a spiritual thing too. Don't get deep into that. But what they did is they went to the National Press Club and they had a big giant disclosure that with all the national press there, and they came in and they said, ooh, this about that. This FAA super geek over here, this colonel in the whatever, this, police officer, high-ranking, government shiny badge wearing, like I care, people that knew. They had the raw material. And then some men in black came and took and did, whatever. So this has been going on for decades, ever since, certainly it amped up after we had nuclear weapons. That was one thing. Military bases and silos and missiles, they just went inoperative. All of a sudden you get a UFO over and the switch went off. So this has been a thing. And now you have all these fighter jets off the coast. They operate with this all the time. Super Hornet, F-18 fighter jets, pilot, young guys go, man, there's not a time we go up, we don't see them. That kind of thing. So this is really starting to become, and then with Starship, and we're going to space, and God damn it, this is not going to go away. So you have these different shows, you have a lot of different interviews, you have the National Press Club, their UFO, UAP disclosure press conferences, you have all these people talking about it. So it's just not going away. And people have stopped looking for the government for validation. They don't care. Mm-hmm. They'd rather watch a History Channel or listen to Phranq tell you about it. So this is what I've learned in going through all this stuff, is that the people, they either have their own personal experience, their own opinion, and they're worried about the seeds growing, and they don't care, and it doesn't matter. Because it's going to show up, and they're going to go, we rule you, get in line with all the other guys, whatever, and hopefully you got a force field that'll stop a, 30-06, but, or we'll do commerce with you and bypass, the leaders and kind of get to the concept that we are individuals. And go, there's shit what these guys say. All y'all. I don't care what planet you're from or Washington, D.C. or whatever. That mindset, what is their philosophy? Should they even think like the way we do? Is there, some kind of primal, it's an ugly planet, it's a bug planet, Starship Trooper kind of stuff. So we don't know. So the thing that I'm looking at is we got to focus on ourselves, because I guarantee there is a common, certainly a physical truth. Electrons orbit this way. Let me
go back there because we're just getting off from your UFO. But since you went to UFO, I did have a moment as I was chatting to find the video for all of you who are interested. It's called The Age of Disclosure. The Age of Disclosure, directed by Dan Farah. And here's just on Wiki list some of them that are in this movie. Let me just read this to you guys. The film features current U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Now, keep in mind, when he was filmed, all these people were filmed. It was during the Biden administration, for what it's worth. Members of the United States Congress, including Kristen Gillibrand, Mike Rounds of the Senate, along with Tim Burchett and Andre Carson, Dan Crenshaw. He's one I could do without. Mike Gallagher and Anna Paulina Luna, who, of course, is kind of the czar for so-called conspiracy projects that Trump at least promised we would look into. Of course, that's not going anywhere. So that's from the House. We also have former intelligence community and military officials interviewed. James Clapper, director of National Intelligence. Christopher C. Miller, who's the former acting Secretary of Defense. Christopher Mellon, formerly the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. And retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, former commander of the Naval Meteorology and Oceanography Command. And there's other people in there, military, fighter pilots, and on and on. So you kind of
got a minute and a half trailer. You want to play it?
Yeah, let's just play it. So you get an idea of the caliber that's there, regardless of whatever the tactics
are.
It's
on Prime Video.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm going to watch it. Let's play the trailer.
All right. Let's see what they got, wrap this up in a minute and a half. Just let them say their thing. Go. All right. Got to get past all the commercial stuff. Because they definitely got to give me a commercial. This is, you can get a free iPhone 17. You just got to give a DNA sample. The age of disclosure.
We had repeated instances of something operating in the airspace over restricted nuclear facilities, and it's not ours.
These are otherworldly things that are performing maneuvers that haven't been seen.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
This is so secret. There have been very few people in our entire government that have been allowed or provided access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees. People have been hurt protecting and hiding this information.
Some people claim it would cost them their lives if they spoke out about these things.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
The age of disclosure. All right, I'll put that on my list of, but it's not way up on, if I care.
Is that on iPhone 17?
So I'm just
let's move on. So there's other points here I would echo some of the issues you brought up, and then we'll get to the Trump speech, and then after that, let's talk about the Reiner. But we mentioned about the economy, just a few basic points because this audience already sees what's happening. But the silver rocket, silver always seems to hold back and wait, and then it pops. There we go. Of course, the guess now is what the gold-silver ratio will be. There's the traditional ratio, but at the same time, it might even get a tighter ratio in time because silver now is being recognized as an essential and critical mineral. So that, you can't, there's so many vectors and forces that are all coming to converging for silver to really just pop.
And gold just got put the tier 1 bank investment. You can collateralize it at 100% when it was only 50% just a month or two ago.
And really? They changed it?
Yeah, I'm like, what the shit? I never even knew that.
50 to 100. So, and isn't it interesting, people, when you just sit back, just sometimes you look at the meta or just the times we're in. Silver finally this month hit the all-time high. I think November, technically. I think it was November when it popped over 50. So now we're all-time high. It's an absolute rocket ship. It's like parabolic. It's like bam, right? So silver is like, the bee's knees at this point. Guess what else happened in the month of, December, right? What happened just like a week or so ago was the last ever penny, which was auctioned off for a lot of money, I may add. So it's just, you can't make that up, right?
No, I think they got, the whole last batch.
Right, the last batch. But the last penny, I saw the video when the very last penny of the last batch came out, and they're auctioned that off for like millions of dollars or whatever. So, but just to have the last penny come out of the machine the same month, not even the same, decade or the same year, it's the same month that silver just rockets up. I mean, you can't orchestrate that as a better example of what happens when metals go up and the dollar collapses, right? Anyway, so then there's Bitcoin. I want to mention briefly with Bitcoin and where this economy, there's a lot of forces on the economy. Obviously, you know, the dollar's doomed for all sorts of reasons. But where's the pin going to be? As Peter Schiff always says, you know, there's a pin to pop it. We just don't know where the pin's coming from.
Is Schiff going on Tucker?
Yeah. He's going to be on Tucker, so we'll see.
No, I mean that's the pin.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I wouldn't put it past it. Hey, look, again, not investing advice, but for anyone looking to buy some of the mining stocks and things that Peter always talks about, I mean, when he gets Tucker to platform, as the term is, Peter Schiff, and more people realize and start looking into it, man, I think personally.
No, that's when the plunge protection team and the banks and the, you know, they, them, those come and push it down. See, no, it didn't happen yet, but they're just losing control. It's all blazing past their influence.
So with Bitcoin, and this is not a Bitcoin bash here. I know people get all uptight about it, like they take it personal.
You know, it turned into GoldmanSuck.gov
program.
I
agree. I mean, there's always, like, we know that somehow a digital money system is in the works. It's just ultimately what backs it. And whether it has to be purely that, and they're going to make physical transactions illegal, that's a whole other conversation. But with Bitcoin, though, it's like you see this link. You have Bitcoin that went down, right? We all know that. The Bitcoin people thought it was going to be around over $200,000 a coin. They predicted by early in 2025 for the end of this year. And yet they hit hit lows of 80,000. I don't even know what it is now. But regardless, it didn't perform at all the way they claimed. Also, they claim it's digital gold. And if it's digital gold, we see what gold and silver are doing. How come Bitcoin is not paralleling that? And there's all sorts of theories. They say, oh, well, gold always moves first and Bitcoin goes second. I mean, why? What's the reason of that? And there's always excuses. And, you know, then there's Michael Saylor, and the problem there is his stock going down. And, you know, it's almost like I'm not accusing it of being a Ponzi, but it's very interesting where his stock value goes up when they buy Bitcoin. But he can only buy Bitcoin for Michael Saylor's MicroStrategies company if people invest in it. And they're all going to invest in it if they think Bitcoin's going up. So you have this very vicious cycle that it seems no one's really seen. And if Bitcoin remains low, then at some point, in order to keep that company going and people get their little dividend yield paid in Bitcoin, he's going to have to start selling Bitcoin. And once he starts selling Bitcoin and massive Bitcoins to keep the stock afloat, then you are essentially, you know, undermining the very value of your own company, right? So if that happens, that's going to look horrible for Bitcoin overall, and more people are going to start pulling out. There was a couple of financial channels I listened to that are not diehard Bitcoin people. They're basically get out of the dollar channels. You know, they're for gold, silver, real estate, Bitcoin. You know, they do at least do more of an average, like a good job, you know, looking at all these avenues. Many of them made some money in Bitcoin, you know, buying it when it was like 10,000, and now they've made some money. So it's kind of like, you know, they put a few percent in. Many of them are becoming, they're all switching from bull to bear recently. And it was interesting hearing them or looking at them as the canary in the coal mine. When people who, you know, are open to it, they've made money on it, they're not necessarily skeptics, but they're pragmatists. And that's kind of what my concern has been with Bitcoin. Obviously, there's the maxis, the Bitcoin loyalists, who are just almost married to the concept, the ideal, the technology.
Because they got a bunch and they just want it to go up, and they don't give a crap about digital cash or the philosophy of it. It's just another money-making thing, and let Saylor do it for them.
Well, those that made the money, of course, are going to be all into it, and they're going to love it. But a lot of the later adopters who are all waiting for their time for the pop, and, you know, they're 10x, 100x, and that's what lured them in, as now they were buying the Bitcoin of those that already made the money on it. That's the concern.
Well, it's down to 84,000 now from a high of 120. So those that got in at 110 something, they're not feeling good right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if it's you know, a lot of people are looking at Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin, unfortunately, has turned into a gambling maneuver, and for people with little means. Now, granted, it's made a lot of people rich, but it's almost like lottery tickets. You know, my uncle Dom, he was a multimillionaire, and, you know, the joke was he would, of course, why would a multimillionaire or some of our millionaire friends buy the daily lotto ticket? You know, you don't buy the daily lotto ticket when you're a millionaire. It's kind of like it's just a waste of money, and you already have money. It seems to be the people.
When it hits $1 billion, I'm in.
It's yeah, but gambling in the lotto tends to be with people with not a lot of money, and why? Because they feel like there's no way out of their predicament, and there's no way they can work hard enough their 9 to 5 job. They've got themselves in a position where they feel like to take that dollar and put it into your savings account where there's no interest, or you put it on some stock that it may or may go up 10%. To them, it's not going to move the needle. Working overtime. I mean, you get to a point you're working hard, whether smart or not, but they feel locked. So the only way out is going to the casinos. They're playing the horses or something like Bitcoin. And I think for a whole generation of young people, the people that Nick Fuentes definitely speaks with, who feel like the only advantage they have is that they understand technology better than their grandparents and the boomers and whoever else. And if this is new tech money, I mean, what the heck? I may as well put some money into Bitcoin, and it sounds as if that will be the future. It's an easy sell. You just go 100x or whatever. It's the only way out. So I think with good intentions, and we're talking smart people here. I'm not trying to say that people who invest in Bitcoin, who really learning about hash rates and how the system works, are just unsophisticated boobs that are playing the lotto. But I think that same psychology undermines a lot of it. But anyway, going back to Bitcoin in general, if Bitcoin cannot pull itself out of this, then the people in the middle, the people like that podcaster who has a big audience, who goes from being bullish to being a bear and just saying, look, I'm just going wherever the money's at, and it doesn't look like I see a future for it now. When people are panicking, are they going to sit there and want to take their money that's failing in a system of fiat and then figure out your seed words and open a Bitcoin wallet and these different cryptos and this and that and the complicated? There's not quite the grandma just button yet, and the long-term pedigree of security and use for Bitcoin. So where will the average person put their money when they're in a panic mode? It's sort of like, some guys, you got to open up the digital wallet and blah, 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 blah. Or the other person offers you, a gold eagle. Like which one can you see, you understand, you get? And when times of strife, I think the metal will always win out. I've said on the show years ago that if Bitcoin maybe was introduced 10, 15 years earlier, then that would have allowed more adoption. And then during a crash, maybe more people would find trust in it. But whether it ultimately can work or not, forgetting the whole security issue and the government surveillance and all of that, I just think push comes to shove, the new people will not adopt to it under stress, and the middle of the road people are probably going to just leave it and go into the metals. So if Bitcoin starts to go down, then you have Bitcoin that seems to track with the NASDAQ, which again, it's one of the criticisms. When NASDAQ and the Dow goes down, gold goes up. Same thing. Gold goes down, NASDAQ goes up. So digital gold should track with gold, and it doesn't, right? Instead, it's tracking or packing, as you might want to describe it, with NASDAQ. So if Bitcoin starts to go down, then the NASDAQ also goes down, how much you want to link them. And then NASDAQ going down is, of course, the largest part of the stock market, and the largest part of NASDAQ is the AI stocks and the AI bubble. And many of us have already been aware of not only is it a bubble, and you have companies making chips that they have nothing to put them in, like warehouses of these, like Sam Altman has like these warehouses, like millions of chips that they made, but there's no companies you have to put the chips in. And they're just literally sitting in warehouses trying to show proof of doing their homework with all this investment money. But by the time other companies show up to even put the chips in them, those chips will probably be obsolete already, right? That's one of these concerns. So you have these AI companies that are all kind of like incestuous, right? They are all linked to each other. They're trading amongst themselves and buying and supplying each other in a loop, in a circle, which means even more how hollow that industry is. Obviously, not saying that AI is not the future. It is, but the first round of options may not be the one that's so lasting. So therefore, the AI bubble, most people can see is popping. And so when AI pops, which is a derivative of NASDAQ, which Bitcoin tax with, well, then you're going to have, and if Michael Saylor's company goes and Bitcoin collapses, or even further, NASDAQ, AI, I mean, all of these forces together are probably my feeling, and I don't think it's rocket science for a lot of this audience, that's probably what's going to be at least maybe one of the more historic notations or footnotes of how this thing falls apart. But then what about Bitcoin, and will we have a bailout? Because if there's so much at risk now for the future, I mean, look, Trump is what, printing money.
They're going to bail out AI, I can tell you that. Sam Altman is going to be with his hand out.
Put this down. All the stuff Trump's doing, and this is going to lead into the Trump speech, how desperate he is to buy votes. But for instance, he's already buying votes for the elderly, who are the only people, especially on Fox News elderly, the only people who are still voting for Trump blindly. And what do the average middle class older senior citizen have left? What's their main bank account? It's their house. And a lot of them now want to sell their homes, and they are pulling them off the market because they're realizing nobody wants to buy it for the prices that they thought it was worth. Now, if you think it's going to change in the next year, then pull your house off the market. Other people feel it's not going to get better, and you may as well take your losses now and sell it now. Well, what's Trump doing? He decides he's announcing back-to-back, right, to end quantitative tightening and go to quantitative easing, right, like back-to-back, which I think is almost unprecedented from what Peter Schiff was talking about. They usually at least have a quarter where they take a break first before they switch one from the other, like whiplash. So why is he that immediate? Well, probably because they know how bad the economy is and what's going to be doing, and right before the midterms. So my hunch, and this is just, I think, educated speculation with it, is, you lower the interest rates, you get a new Fed chief in there, you print the money, which he's already said they're going to do, QE, whatever. What the hell are we up to? QE6? I don't even know what we are now. But he's going to start the money printing.
QE socialism.
And it's going to take roughly, I would say, 3 to 6 months for the money to move through the sluice there to get to the point where the interest, where in theory, younger people can now, quote, afford a house, along with a 50-year mortgage with artificially lowered interest rates and pumping a bunch of money in there. It's sort of like the last gasp to have seniors see their property values stay elevated where they can sell and they still feel rich under the Trump economy. Now, of course, all that money printing is going to backfire on the American people, of course, and make things that you get even more expensive. But I feel like that's just the last gasp. It's almost the equivalent of what Joe Biden did when he starts selling off our oil reserves for the midterms to get gas cheap right before the votes. I mean, it's just as pathetic and just as obvious. But so anyway, what's that? not that obvious.
Don't care, doesn't matter. I mean,
yeah. So anyway, those are just some thoughts and ruminations on the economy where the money printing, of course, will make these commodities go even more, but at least temporarily we'll see the houses probably a little buying have a little bump for over this next year. All right, next is the I think those are the main points. The other one is the Turning Point USA conference starts this weekend. Not that I really care, but I also do care. I'm very curious to see, not to bring all the drama up, but
Erica and Candace met in person just a day or two ago, and they got shows that I don't care, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and the lineup already is, you're starting to see it's a pro-Zionist lineup, right, of who's invited, who's not. Also, you see the desperation from Erica Kirk, or at least the Turning Point, because they kept trying to, first ignore Candace, bringing up a lot of these questions, not just her, but others. And then they started attacking her credibility. And then when that didn't work, then they brought out the grieving widow routine and shopped Erica Kirk around. And, she just does not play well for the cameras at all. And she's kind of like Hillary Clinton almost. I hate to make that analogy, but it's sort of like the more you see her, the less you kind of trust the person. The question is it because she's lying? And many people think those eyes she has and the way she speaks, she's completely lying. I personally think, this is my view. Many of you might disagree, but I don't think she's in on it. I don't think she's really this duplicitous person. I just think that she's way over her head. I think Charlie Kirk married her for other reasons. Sometimes it's good to have a partner who is like my better half as well, who's not, living politics. You need to have two people that politicized or into politics, I think it's like my wife and I both being doctors. Sometimes there's too much medicine in our house. We try not to talk medicine around here. But I think to have someone who's grounded in a different way, and you can come home and leave the politics and the business outside the home. And I think it's possible Erica Kirk acted like that. Now, I think the powers that be wanted to put her as the face of Turning Point so that the grieving widow is someone that that the average, they could argue you can't criticize a grieving widow, while at the same time they put her up as the puppet, and she's not savvy enough to even know about how she's being used. I mean, think about the fact that
she's
Charlie
way
Kirk,
more savvy than you're giving her credit.
I don't know. I just my feeling I get. And Charlie Kirk, look, he, as savvy as he was, he didn't know until the end.
Capable as he was.
Whether it was orchestrated by certain governments or not. I just mean it was towards the end when Charlie Kirk really began to understand the mess he was in, and when he ordered that independent audit a week before he died, right? Like it was a week or so before he died, he started to go, I think I'm surrounded by forces. Now, I don't know who it is, but I'm not trusting the world that's around me. The system said, Charlie, you're the face of everything. You go out there, drum up support. We'll take care of all the stuff behind the scenes. Yep. But like any business owner, if you trust all your books to a bookkeeper who's not related to you, it's like my dad used to say: if you're not screwing your bookkeeper, then the bookkeeper's screwing you. That's what he used to always say. That's why you got to marry them. Yeah, that was his line. So I think that is where, in my feeling, and a lot of you will disagree, like Ernie, but I think she's just over her head and doesn't realize the force is all coming together. And I think my sense is that Candace knows this or feels that as well, and that's why she has not really called her out on anything. It's been Turning Point, and having a woman-to-woman talk of the two most important people in Charlie Kirk's life, the two strongest women in his life for different reasons. Candace brings all the political savvy and the love that they had as friends. And of course, Erica, well, we'll just say the human part of him. So anyway, hopefully something came out of that, but I think there was
I get the
but they were so desperate that nothing was working. Oh, listen, that's rich, Ernie. You know what your time clock is? But then what's her name? I keep forgetting the lady who they put in charge of CBS. The pro-Zionist. Well, she wound up doing a sit-down, they called town hall interview with Erica Kirk, but it was not a town hall. The whole thing was beyond scripted. They wanted it completely controlled, who was allowed in, what the questions were, everything, and it still backfired because Erica Kirk, whether she's really a liar or just over her head and can't deal with the, emotionally, just comes off nervous and over her head, it backfired. Every part of that grieving widow tour backfired. And so finally, after trying everything, they go, all right, Candace, let's meet. Of course, they have to do it private, and I think it was good on both sides. But I think that's why they kowtowed, and then she flew there. Remember, originally, they were trying to force Candace to show up here in Arizona on their terms. Now it's switched all the way around. It's like Trump would say.
I got to take her into the green room, explain it to her.
Who has the cards? And of course, Candace was told, not even to drink the water. She didn't even trust drinking the water, and she had her own people with her. So Turning Point, the conference is going on now, I guess for this weekend. Interesting to see, and I think they just wanted the scandal behind them as much as possible because it was blowing up in their face. Thoughts on Turning Point before we get on to Trump? Oh, no, wait, I want to talk about the anti-Semitic czar next, but any thoughts on Turning Point? Or I don't care.
Maybe. Am I allowed? The Barry Weiss is probably who you're talking about.
That's it. Thank you. I can't believe I forgot her name.
God, I'm embarrassed. I remember. Anyway, so it's the Turning Point thing. This is when it first happened. I understood, because I got young kids and even grandkids. So my sons and son-in-laws, they were Charlie Kirked up. They go to church and, the Christian crowd and friend kind of, check out this guy's got a good argument for and really learned on yada, yada, yada. So I had a lot of respect for Charlie Kirk. I've been watching him, posting up on Freeman's Phoenix's stuff, slapping around libtards since forever. And I was never a Ben Shapiro fan. I just don't like his ew. Charlie Kirk was filled with a lot more demonstrative of love as his motivation, as opposed to Ben Shapiro shilling for Israel all the time. So I'm okay. It's better than not. I'm glad he's around. I'll promote his stuff. I'm not going to watch everything. But then I found after he had died how influential he was, in my family. And I'm like, oh, cool. Well, then you find out, you start going down a little bit deeper on Erica, his wife. Now, she was a businesswoman before, and she did some orphanage in Romania or something like that they were dealing with that got, highlighted. There was some trafficking stuff that was going on, or so they kind of buried that. And then her mother, I think, family moved to Arizona as a hub. It's always Arizona, just saying. Moved to Arizona because they had some contact with the Department of Defense, CIA, or some crap like that. So you go, oh, well, there's that. Then there was an orchestration. We got to get this Charlie Kirk under control. He's a little bit too, but, man, we put a Miss Arizona super blonde babe there. We'll see what's up. We got another Red Sparrow. We can take care of, Charlie Kirk that way. And so all of this is going to eventually come out in the documentary of, and it just smells off. And my first response was there is no replacement for Charlie Kirk. They're going to try, because what I always say, Steiger's Law, whenever you create an organization around a movement or a cause, sooner or later, the organization every freaking time becomes more important than the reason you created it. Well, the reason they created it was, traditional values. Christ is the answer, was the question. Freedom. Young men, get off your couch. It's like Jordan Peterson. First clean your room. I mean, that get your mind right and organize and quit being blueface all the time with all your digital crap. So this was very, 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 very powerful, and it was very influential. It couldn't be allowed to just go uncontrolled. If you're not in control, you're out of control. And they, them, those can't have that. Well, who's they, them, those? Well, I guarantee they're tied in with, the power of gazillion dollars of foreign aid of Israel, something, and if they're not all the same thing, they definitely, have coffee together, you know what I mean? Oh. So I'm going, okay, where's that influence? Charlie Kirk starts to find this out. He starts coming in, you're dead. That's how you wind up dead.
Yeah.
So
and then you're dead, and you've got a bunch of Israeli flags at your memorial that I talked about.
Right. No, it was unseemly as hell. And who embraced it? Erica Kirk. She's like running her fingers through the hair on stage of J.D. Vance, and he's all Israeled up, and Palantired surveillance up, and you got man, they are inside the house at the highest level of the freedom movement.
Completely agreed.
Of Turning Point USA. They wouldn't do that. That'd be wrong. I mean, come on. They go, well, they would have to, well, then they're going to do it. They got the money, the resources, the inclination, the sociopathic, I don't give a crap, I'm going to rule you tendency anyway. What'd you think was going to happen? So, again, doesn't matter and I don't care, okay? Because what matters is your family, yourself. Do you or do you not own yourself? Do you act like it? Are you delegating authority to someone? And every 2 to 4 years, you're picking team jersey of, who gives a crap? Because it doesn't matter. I've been doing this a lot. Who really impresses me has been Patrick Byrne. Regardless of what people, I know Patrick well and, whatever. But his focus on election fraud and what's going on and how the deep state is exactly what I've been screaming since the late 80s. That all my activism was, I go, you guys don't understand. You are not in charge. They're just putting up a government number up there on proprietary software of some private company out of Venezuela, by the way. That's sitting there telling you who won, and this guy's in charge of the trillions of dollars of budget. Because, voting. Yeah,
All right.
We wouldn't leave that to you.
Let me talk. Thank you. Let me talk. By the way, before I'm stealing it back. Do you know, is Tucker Carlson speaking? I heard he was invited like when this fight first began, but it sounds like maybe he's not. Do you happen to know? Because that would be a big win for
Wow, I would have to go look.
All right, you go ahead and look here, and I'll hold the fort down for you for a sec. So speaking of Israel having the influence, the pro-Zionists here, which, you've got the pro-Zionists that are still trying to do this, muddying the waters of anyone who's against Zionism is anti-Semitic. And I'm really curious if that's still working for the general population. I think that's what started to turn the tide for Trump about closing the borders, is when that lying trope that if you were against illegal immigration, that somehow you're racist and against immigrants, which of course was not true. But it was such an easy discernment, but yet for some reason people felt trapped and embarrassed to stand their ground on the illegal immigration issue with that simple thing. Or if you are, if you oppose men wearing a female bathing suit and being on a woman's swim team, if you're against that, then you're basically for genocide of gay people and trans people. I mean, it's just these leaps of logic simply to shut down the conversation. It means that they don't have an argument. Well, anyway, the same thing here. If you're against Zionism, somehow you must be anti-Semitic. And if you're anti-Semitic, if you can make that conversion logically, or well, it's not logic, but if you can get away with that conversion and translation of those two, then once you're, quote, labeled as anti-Semitic, then the anti-hate laws, even though there's technically not anti-hate from the U.S. Supreme Court, but they're certainly working at it. So once it's considered hate speech and anti-Semitic, then all these new regulations, current regulations and new ones coming, get to set in. And that's the concern I have ultimately, is that Trump is self-emulating himself. He will be, definitely neutered just by being a lame duck. He's going to lose the House, probably the Senate. If nothing else, he's lost the support of the people who would defend him. And so when the Democrats get in and, to see what kind of a tidal wave pushback that we'll see from them, then comes probably definitely an impeachment, whether they throw him out or not, who knows. But all these new rules and regulations over social media to make sure that another Trump never happens again. And probably that'll be supported by the neocons as well, now that they've kind of reaffirmed their footing in his own administration, which we talked about before, with Susan Wiles and Vance to some degree, and Rubio and the whole cadre. So, they finally have their footing back in the Oval Office. And they will, under the brand that, but we're Republicans, we're on your side, they're going to push it through from their perspective through the pro-Israel movement with sellouts like Dan Crenshaw leading the way. So Donald Trump, despite all the money he's been giving Israel, and he stood at the Israeli Congress. What is it called?
Our money.
The cassette. It's got a cool name. The Knesset, is that what it's called? Over in Israel, their parliament. But he literally sat there and I always get that wrong. Knesset. Say it again. The Knesset. That's it. So anyway, all of this has been happening with Donald Trump even being called by by Mark Levin. He was called out publicly as America's first Jewish president. That's what he was called, the first Jewish president. It reminds me when Bill Clinton was the first black president. Remember those?
Yeah, Levin's a piece of work too, man.
Yeah. So, and Donald Trump goes, I take that with a badge of honor. I mean, he's just come out saying it. So, there's no illusions. So now Donald Trump, with the money from the Adelsons and the rest, they have to fight back about Ben Shapiro's failing network and all the rest. And so now we have the anti-Semitism czar. And his name is Rabbi Yehuda, I'm going to make sure I get this right, Yehuda Kaploun, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. It's an interesting name. Kaploun, Kaploun. Kaploun? I'm not sure. But anyway, this gentleman is the new anti-Semitism czar, and here's just a minute or a few seconds of him giving a speech now that he's been ordained. Here we go.
How do we battle anti-Semitism on the internet? How are we doing better on algorithms? What companies can we work with? We are going to have a whole division within the office of the Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism that is going to work on technology and working with the greatest leaders in technology, many of whom are Jewish and have offered their assistance. The office is going to be revamped entirely to be one of the highest profile offices in the State Department, because that's what the secretary wants and that's what the president wants. So we are going to have a very, very strong mandate on education, on protecting people, and how are we able to make a huge difference in combating what goes on.
Anyway, that cuts off there. So you get the idea, people, and this is coming with a lame duck president who's basically paid for and owned by the pro-Zionist groups, both Christian and Jewish, and he's lost the support of his base. So if he loses his base to fight for him, the only people left, he's backed himself into a corner, are the neocons and the pro-Zionists, and that's how we get a war in Venezuela and everything else that's coming, and all of these new regulations to ban and censor us coming up. And that's why I do think, and I'm seeing it happen, I know I pointed out on your show, it's the part that you probably, I don't know, either hate or disparage or just ignore the most, but I find it fascinating watching this, these changes in not just parties, but in political ideology about who's who. There is no Democrat Republican anymore, aside from the establishment Dems, establishment Republicans, but it's the independents, the MAGA, the America First, a lot of these sensible Democrat forms, the Young Turk type of audience of younger people, and they're all blending together. Just one just analogy or example is Anna Kasparin, the last person I ever want to hear. When I hear her voice, it was like, scratching on glass. But she now is a regular listener to Candace Owens. She admitted that she first watched Candace Owens recently to just find out, why this crazy conservative BIT, what, is saying, because obviously she's just full of crap and she's one of the MAGA people. So she started watching, and unlike the media that puts a 30-second clip and finds things out of context, all of a sudden she got sucked into it, and now the Young Turks does like daily updates on the Candace show, and she, just like my better half, who suddenly started watching for certain reasons and now kind of gets it, or at least they're fans and being exposed to many other concepts, which is very fascinating. So you're having, for instance, conservatives being open when they watch the Young Turks, and when I say Young Turks, I'm using that as a placeholder for similar, kind of independent, anti-establishment Democrat young youth channels. But you have conservatives, young conservatives, who are now being exposed to what's going on in Gaza and the Palestinians versus, the Israeli Zionists. A lot of it, they've been fighting that fight a lot longer than younger conservatives were even aware. So they're being red-pilled in a sense from them. And on the flip side, you have Democrats on their side being exposed to points from our perspective. They're being introduced to firearms because they're talking about the Charlie Kirk deal. One of the questions is how the bullet did not let's say do more damage to Charlie Kirk, but you have to do ballistic tests. And so now you have Candace Owens showing clips of ballistic tests, and it's funny hearing the liberals comment, going, wow, I learned a lot about guns. Didn't think I wanted to, but they're being exposed to it. And you're starting to see this melding of these two worlds of all the youth groups. And I think that new solidarity is going to grow as the establishment on both sides join forces to ban us and censor us, all under the name of anti-Semitism or worse. And I think that's really what it's going to come down to. Like you've often said, it's not Democrat, Republican, it's us versus them, or, it's the people versus they, them, those, that sort of thing. So anyway, any other comments on the pro-Israel czar? Hopefully you feel a lot more American now, Ernie.
The effort, we had a story up yesterday on Freedom's Phoenix that, I can pull it up, and it was on that Israel was responsible for a lot of the Muslim migration throughout the world because it served their interests. And they wanted to have the consternation. They wanted to have, the violence. They wanted. It's all, the whole thing is a freaking psyop, to get the masses, whatever. Okay, this is what's going on. So Israel's push to immigrate Muslims to the West is behind the resurgence of Islamic terrorism on RonPaulInstitute.org. So this is not, a secret. All these mass shootings, they need this kind of stuff to make you afraid, to control you, to psyop you, to have what to pay attention to, and all this. So my opinion is, what happens is that people, when they become more and more aware, they see the patterns. That's why I call it revolution. It just keeps coming around. That they start to realize that they don't have as much difference with their Democrat neighbor and the Democrat, the Republican there. They overlap a lot. They may have a different perspective or so on, but both sides have branded themselves so extreme that the left and the right left everybody. And they're going, I'm standing here with Dawn and I went shopping with her, I don't know, it was last week sometime or something. And I mean, it just barely covered the bottom of the shopping cart, $130. I went, what the crap is that, And this impact, if that would have happened to us younger, whatever, and big family, I got 4 kids and, and parties and everything, I mean, holy crap. Well, just us, that might last us a while, or we don't, get all stupid anyway. But, we have a New York strip. How much did that cost? Oh, it was cheap. It was only $15 as opposed to $40. I mean, kind of thing. So I'm looking at these fundamental things that overlap people's interests, what the solutions are, how they can be, because when we're out here, the love bus is not unnoticeable. And anyone that we do any business with, or we go buy stuff, or before we actually got the bus out here, or they know to, go to occupy the land, we're, helping people with different stuff. We don't wear our philosophy on the sleeve other than like a good neighbor. But when they go look and say, they're going, yeah, kind of what you said, or listen to the show, yeah, what you said. Freedom is popular. When you have the Young Turks going through, and you have, Rubin leaves, and what's her name leaves, and Cenk Uygur, is going on, interviewing Keith Knight, the anarchist libertarian friend of ours that's here, don't tread on anyone or whatever. And then you have, at the same time, there was some, popular Houston black influencer left thing at the same time that was, reached out to me, and we did a big interview. And I'm going, Keith, where did this come from? How are these people, what's going on? It was a conscious effort of them trying to get the extreme libertarian types and overlap, bring them in, infiltrate, offer something, kind of create a new something. I have no idea. But it always evolves around how they're promising a chicken in every pot, and health care for everybody, or whatever the hell that they're offering to try and get people to pay attention or care or participate or go vote. But they don't care, because they just need to show big numbers of people voted. We'll change the number to whatever the hell we want. We just need you to participate in the system. So I'm seeing that the overlap in independent movies, private production companies, private studios, channels, efforts like Charlie Kirk's and Turning Point USA, these things will always, the Lovolution, Ron Paul, these things always pop up, but they immediately get trying to be taken over. we're setting up now. We got the, domains and all this kind. We're starting to put stuff together for this Philosophy of Liberty campaign that we're going to launch hard. Beware the Ides of March. Middle of March, we're going to, do some ass whooping, but it'll probably be out before then. We got a lot of people already doing stuff. But when we do that, we have to make it to where there is no central plan. It has to be IPFS. Now, some of these groups, like our friend Mark Victor, Live and Let Live organization, we can go, hey, you don't got to tell me, you can do whatever the hell you want. But the foundation of this is going to be decentralized. They're not going to be, they can blow you up and it doesn't have any impact on what we're doing at all. I just FYI. So you go do what you want to do. Here's all the stuff. That's what we're doing, rock and roll. So the reason is because I know what'll happen. We'll get Charlie Kirk. They'll go after wherever they'll try and get open source education.online with James Corbett. They'll try and go after, the sites that we build. They'll go after Freedom's Phoenix in the show and Occupy and Pirates. They'll go after. Liberty International. They'll go after Students for. They'll go after all the people that are participating in this. We got it from there. That's not it. It's the people. And who is going to have the most impact on it are all these overlapping interests that people, they're looking for not being left out or common philosophies or support an organization or whatever, that they're not responsible. So we have to make it easy and tools for them to do it, for them to do their own, Lovolution signs or, however it manifests itself. So this, I already know. Whenever you create an organization, a structure or whatever, it becomes more important than the reason you created it. Every single time, because there are people that make sure of it, that infiltrate it, that build it up. It could be, we got a big budget and we're gonna use it to beat up against it. If you don't do what we want, then we'll take our football and go home. I mean, how many times have I seen this? Over and over to, I got a point. And it's Arizona. It's always Arizona. Why? Because in Arizona, the in-Q-Tel and the head of the investment direction of money by the CIA and intelligence community is one of the guys is Michael Crow, which is head of the Arizona State University. They've got their fingers in the pie of everything, and it's always freaking Arizona. Here comes Janet Napolitano. She goes on to be head of Homeland Security. You have Sheriff Arpaio. America's sheriff comes here and, for, God, almost 2 decades, and over and over and over and over. And I see these people, either they bring in the corrupted or they corrupt you. And it is so, even the best, with the best intentions, well, this is how you do. You got it, and we can't, and always, and this is a little bit. So it can't be like that. So what does it manufacture? It creates Ernie and Phranqs. It creates, different opposition, but you can't focus on names. It's not John McCain. It's John McCain and all, the kind of crap that he does and the manifestations of the collectivism and the fascism and the socialism and the whatever isms. And you have to make it clear that it's about self-ownership, which is why we're doing this. So this pro-Israel czar and, the tech thing, I wanted to, before we go off, I had this up that we wanted to do the MIT tech guys that you're talking about. Now, what I did is when I saw this, it reminded me of the movie Chain Reaction with Morgan Freeman and Keanu Reeves. What happened was, as a tech student, they were creating fusion. They were able, with sound waves and a laser hit and whatever, it's a self-sustaining, creating hydrogen by itself in a cold fusion kind of thing. Well, the whole point of the movie was really the people funding it and doing it were there to control it, to make sure it didn't get out and challenge the oil energy-based systems. So they blew it up. They do whatever they're going to do to stop it. So here we have, and I've seen this over and over play out, MIT professor Nuno Loureiro, how do you say that, shooting and his nuclear fusion work with Commonwealth Fusion Systems. MIT professor was shot and killed 2 days ago. He led the MIT Plasma Science Department and was working on. He was working with Commonwealth Fusion. Commonwealth Fusion is one of the leading nuclear fusion startups. Commonwealth Fusion Systems, CFS, a leading private fusion energy company spun out from MIT, has raised close to $3 billion in total private funding as of late 25. This latest round supports completion of the Spark, SPARC, demonstration machine targeting net energy gain, and early work on the ARC commercial power plant in Virginia. CFS's total represents about 1/3 of all private capital invested in fusion companies worldwide, making it the most funded fusion startup. How might that impact the fusion company's timeline? Blah, 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 blah. Well, it wasn't just him. There's other people starting to go too. Fusion comes out was the whole point of that movie, Chain Reaction. The entire economics of energy, oil, gas, they, them, those, what? Oh, hell no. Interlaced with the bank, that, influence of whatever, Israel and Zionism, they're all same whatever, okay? They're getting close, and because MIT professors and scientists doing it are winding up dead, that's why, So this is just more of the same. Part of the Disclosure Project was all about energy. That was one of the things Stephen Greer was about, wanting to make sure that became a thing. So I am, you got to be in the mindset of you don't care and it doesn't matter because you're doing what you can do. And I tell you, I got a fusion reactor. It's called the sun. But then what happens when silver shoots up to the moon? It's going to get hundreds of dollars. It's going to get stupid. It has a lot of traits even better than gold when it comes to conducting heat and, whatever. And certainly it's cheaper. I go on, Grok and I say, regardless of price, give me the features of silver over gold. I was like, damn. So this is going to be a thing. And we occupy the land. You need to be able to sustain yourself and your family and be part of a community and don't be a dick. That's the solution. That is the solution. Right. Quit supporting the beast that's devouring you. Okay, the only other thing that we haven't, there's 65 speakers at TPUSA. It has a list up here, and they got, I'll show it, there it is, and it has Vice President Vance is first, then it says Charlie Kirk, then Erica Kirk. I'm sure he's going to do some video thing, but get Erica and Vance. You're going to start seeing. I just get a feeling you're going to see them getting together more, and there's going to be a thing. Then you have Tucker Carlson is speaking.
So
Steve Bannon, Donald Trump. Well, they got his picture up here. Tulsi Gabbard, Megyn Kelly, Jesse Waters, Speaker Mike Johnson, Greg Gutfeld, Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck. Let's see.
It's the Fox News conference. That's what this is.
Yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy, Matt Walsh, Benny Johnson, who are some of the other, well-known guys. Dr. Ben Carson, Tom Homan, the ICE guy. Yeah. Let's see who else. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. Let me see if they got Roger Stone, our buddy, and then. I'm looking to see if RFK Jr. is listed up here. He is not. That is interesting. Okay, so, there's that. And Rob Schreider, the comedian. So this is a... I'm interested to see what Tucker says and what he pulls. Whatever, but really, this is a big, giant, definite... I don't care, and it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, it depends by what metric it doesn't matter. I mean, as far as is it going to save the economy and silver and gold taking off and the dollar going down and
are they going to free me?
I mean, is it all going to?
Are they going to leave me alone?
Is it going to change? Well, I mean, it depends what metric by what duration you're looking at. But as far as local politics and what we're looking at the next 6 months, year, next cycle, I mean, it's interwoven, it's intertwined. And I think this turning point this time is not just another hoopla session just to throw red meat to the base and get everyone lined up and get more signatures and activists to knock on doors. I think there's a lot more going on. The subtext, it might be overt, it might be not so much, but certainly there. James O'Keefe, I don't think he was invited, was he? I mean, he was a guest in the past, but he's been very critical of a lot of this. He's been calling out the Zionists as well and some of the money going on. So anyway, let's move on from that. Before we get to the Trump speech, like the King's speech.
Russell Brand is going to be there.
Oh, is he? Okay. Well, he wound up doing a deep dive interview with Candace, and he's kind of
James O'Keefe. It has James O'Keefe up there.
Oh, it does? Okay. Well, a lot of these people have interviewed Candace and showed respect to her, so I'm sure it was an internal struggle with with Ben Shapiro and his.
What? No Alex Jones?
Yeah, really. So as we start moving off from this one, I've got quick movie news. Another movie coming out that you may have not heard of, and pull up the trailer. It's brand new. It is the little book that Ernie may have heard of called Animal Farm. Animal Farm, and the new adaptation of Animal Farm. So pull it up, is through Angel Studios, right? Like, wow, this would be great. And the person directing it and has a bit part in it is Andy Serkis. He's the guy that did the Gollum. He's like the master of what do you call it? Like the animated characters. Like he played King Kong in the new King Kong movie. He can really emote through his physicality. And anyway, so some of the best characters in film through CGI have been through Andy Serkis. So this is an animated
he puts on
movie.
The green suit or something?
Yeah, exactly. The something performance, digital performers. So he's kind of like the master of it. He's considered like the Steven Spielberg.
Seth Rogen in it. God.
Yeah. But he's also a diehard Democrat, or at least leftist, anti-Trump guy. So what's interesting, if you look at that cast, most of them, Seth Rogen.
Steve Buscemi.
Let's just say
Woody Harrelson.
Let's just say, aside from Woody Harrelson, who kind of stays apolitical, most of the people in this list that Ernie's mentioning, if you notice, are not MAGA. They're not red hat wearing MAGA people. And so here's Angel Studios, who wound up buying. They didn't make this movie. It was sold to them. And, it was their decision. They decided to buy the movie thinking, oh, this should be good. We'll have Animal Farm, which obviously, and I'm sure Ernie already knows, and most of you know, is a warning about communism, right? About basically turning over everything to the people, and that be careful that the pigs, in this case, become draconian leaders, and communist.
Well, that's how cops got to be referred as pigs. It's come Animal Farm.
Yes.
Pig. Some animals are more equal than others, kind of crap.
Yeah, exactly. I think that line comes from the book, right? So, anyways, here's Animal Farm, directed and starring leftists, but it was purchased by very conservative studio, Angel Studios. So, what's this about? So Ernie's going to play the trailer, but I just want to tell you that this movie has already created a huge uproar, and the first true scandal for Angel Studios that has been above scandal. And that is that this Animal Farm apparently is anti-capitalistic and pro-communist. They switch it around. So the pigs are actually the capitalists, and the solution is communism. and Angel Studios is distributing this thing. So and people are wondering, did Angel even know what they were buying? I mean, maybe the concept was, oh, well, how could you get Animal Farm wrong? I mean,
I tell you how, that's not how Angel Studios works.
No, I know how I know it's like crowdfunding amongst their members. I'm part of it.
Well, you got to say that. You know,
no. Wait. But what I'm saying, though, is that somehow, and this is the question I haven't answered yet, is that how this one was done? You have to keep in mind, when the members vote, it's usually on what money to make a project. This is the first time I heard they just out and out just bought one third party. And maybe what happened is that the average voters, I mean, assuming if it was still the shareholders that voted on it, is that we all said, oh, Animal Farm. It's like Atlas Shrugged. I mean, if someone's going to adapt Atlas Shrugged, even if it's not, the best adaptation like the last ones, we had a bunch of issues with them, but at least you know what Atlas Shrugged is. So how can they get this wrong? Well, anyway, that's the allegation. I've not seen the movie, but it's kind of gone viral with all of the sites going, what the hell? How did Angel Studios get duped, or are they getting converted? Hopefully not. Go ahead and play the trailer if you'd like, and we'll see what this movie turns into. But go ahead and play.
Okay. After I make this statement, Angel Studios was all set on the idea that movies that didn't get made, shown, whatever, like The Chosen and different things, that they're involved with, that the funders, the subscribers, the audience members have a voice in what is done. So I'm going, all right, well, how? So that we'll play the trailer, watch the movie, evaluate it independently if I don't give a crap what Rotten Tomatoes says. But the point is, how did it get there? What was the mechanism? That's the story. And will anybody even ask the question? Because I know how they're supposed to work. It's a lot of these small independent themes that have some Christian theme that, this is right and that's wrong, kind of, whatever. Well, Animal Farm, it used to be required reading, in junior high or whatever, along with 1984 and Brave New World and Fahrenheit 451 and whatever else. Now it's like banned. I mean, so this is the trailer.
Wait, Ernie, real quick, because guys won't be able to see it. But I believe Glenn Close plays a female capitalist who is basically carbon copy female version of Donald Trump with the red tie and everything. So apparently you'll see her if you can watch the trailer. But go ahead.
So she's 101 Dalmatians.
Killing dogs. She plays the lead villain human who just has a similarity to a white capitalistic Donald Trump. But go ahead.
Cock-a-doodle!
Hi, Lucky.
What's up?
We are going on vacation.
I do hope it's somewhere good.
What does that say?
Laughter House!
That sounds awesome. I love to laugh.
It's a slaughterhouse.
Look at all this deliciousness. They want this.
Do you want to be food, or do you want freedom? Then let's fight for it. We're free. Whatever goes upon two legs is an enemy.
4 legs, good. 2 legs, bad.
No animal shall wear clothes.
Huh? What? We're show pigs.
And all animals are equal.
Animals running a farm? I had to see it for myself.
Thank you. Aw, so cute.
Activate cute eyes.
I'd rather gouge them out. I want that farm.
We should move into the farmhouse so the humans know we're in charge.
You are about to become my new best friends. Pigs and humans working together. I like the optics.
Oh, we love the optics. What are optics?
I think it's a kind of seafood. You're wearing clothes!
Would you look at that? I am.
Everything's different, but we're still friends.
All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
You're missing a lot of graphics here. What's going on?
Is
but it's quality.
Squealer!
I parked the car!
Let's have no one do that again.
Animal Farm, A Cautionary Tales. In theaters May 1st. Recommended for ages 11 and up.
You know, one thing that it shows is the collaboration between the pigs and humans and the corruption that it does on the pigs. And some are more equal than others because pigs are very smart. I guess that's well known. Anybody that does animal husbandry, but they become in charge, and they're the ones. They're the VC Phranq, man. They're working with the Nazis kind of deal. And so I'm not really sure how this will come out. Like there's been video adaptations of Lord of the Flies and everything else under the sun, but that'll be interesting. It really just shows that there's corruption. That you're going to be socialist, and then they just corrupted like everybody else, and some are more. We're all equal, but we're a little bit more than you are. So that if that's the lesson they get, whatever.
We shall see, for what it's worth, audience. I mean, I didn't glean that much from the trailer, but this is what many channels and people who've apparently seen a preview of it have claimed, and it's a concern. I wish nothing but the best for Angel Studios, and I hope this is a good adaptation, but something I'm sure we'll probably be coming back to this in the future. Let's move on. We got to finish up. Let's talk about the Trump speech. So the Trump speech last night, word on the street was, and I'm not sure where it all came from.
Finagle Venezuela into this. So we got those two issues left.
Yeah, if it came from Truth Social or the White House official, I don't know. I heard people first hearing this through Tucker Carlson, who had a guest who made the claim that this special speech he was giving last night on all the networks, or at least anyone's going to wound up putting him on. I just saw him on News Nation Live. I'm not sure how many stations actually run the president anymore in today's environment, but supposedly he was going to be declaring, I don't want to say declare war officially since Congress hasn't done it, but he was going to declare, yes, we're going in on Venezuela, and even pointing out apparently that their oil belongs to us. And I don't know when that'll happen, but apparently that's the claim.
Get it with Iraq.
And he's like, you know what?
Iraq oil.
I know. It's like, just justify it because we said so. And Monroe Doctrine on steroids, or what, reverse Monroe Doctrine, and here we go. So that was supposedly what it was going to be, is trying to sell it right before the holidays, which could be a good or bad thing. I mean, when everyone's busy with the holidays, this is the time to announce it, but where he would even be more quiet. So that's what everyone was expecting. There were people like a lot of podcasts like Jimmy Dore and others that had special live streams because they were playing the president's speech and them giving commentary during him basically declaring war on Venezuela. Like everyone was waiting for this moment and expected it. And he gets up, and I watched it as well, and he gets up, and it's a nice, fantastic speech. Doesn't even bring up Venezuela. Instead, he's talking about what a wonderful job he's doing.
Wonderful.
And how America is the best ever. And if you think this past year of winning's been great, you ain't seen nothing yet, people. Next year,
stop all the
winning
winning.
so
We're
much
sick of
your
winning.
head will blow off. And so, I mean, we can get into the details. Actually, I don't even want to get into the details because it doesn't matter. It was just pablum, or as the great Morton Downey Jr. used to say, pablum puking. Remember that? Pablum puking liberal. But anyway, that's pretty much what that was, that speech. Now, the question is why? Why was that? Was that a purposeful misdirect? Why would Tucker and others hear he's going to declare war and then he doesn't? So either A, Tucker was lied to, and that was bad information to discredit Tucker. Maybe it was done on purpose because, Donald Trump is so desperate to get any kind of good support. His poll numbers are one of the worst, and I hate to say it, but it is, he did it to himself, that apparently the decrease in support for a first-year president, now, he's technically a second term, but somewhat, the little asterisk on that one, but he has lost support in 1 year more than any president in recent times. So he clearly knows this going into the midterms. So he needs to pump up and say, look, I'm really working for you. Let's throw a bunch of red meat at you. We're cleaning up the border. There's damn illegals. We're going to give everybody money. Your houses are going to be worth more money. I mean, he threw all this into the speech last night. Maybe he realized if he said I was just going to talk about that, no one would tune in. So maybe that the whole thing was a psyop to say, we're going to declare war. And then you go in, and the Christmas gift is he's not declaring war. He's giving you stuff. Like it was the Santa Claus speech. So maybe that's what this was. However, another theory, and what's been the scuttlebutt so far, I've not heard confirmation this morning, unless you have, Ernie, was that he was about to invade or start the action in Venezuela. But word on the street is that Russia sent 2 battleships or aircraft carriers or something down there, and they parked it off the coast there. And that was kind of at the last minute. Russia brings their ships in, and then Trump, balks, and he, gets bluffed out and goes, "All right, you know what? We're just going to talk about how great everything is." And if that's the case, then it shows the escalation of how close we are to the precipice of World War III, and also, the Trump move, which people are starting to notice and mock him. He goes all in on, I'm definitely going to do X, and then gets any pushback in any way, or the next person in line gets into his ear like worm tongue, and he backs off and he changes his mind. So don't know. But anyway, to me, the whole speech was a sign of desperation, knowing that, there's no one left. He's blown his credibility with his base. I'm wondering how much of what he said resonates with the base anymore. The only thing I can see is the money he's going to put in the pot, where at least in theory, keep the housing prices up, which we talked about earlier, by the next round of QE. But he has to know what that's going to do to the economy, but he doesn't care. I don't think he has been. I think he's run out of really things to promote this administration. I mean, most people seem to have problems with him because the economy is not good. Now, for this audience, we know it didn't matter which president got in. I mean, no one's going to be able to stop the sinking ship. So from our point of view, maybe it's perhaps that we know so much going in for this audience that was the last of our reasons to blame Trump. I mean, well, maybe the second reason. To me, it wasn't about saving the economy. It was about draining the swamp. And when your name is Donald Drain the Swamp Trump, and you decide to protect child predators and the entire deep state corruption that's been extorting our politicians and on and on and on, you've lost it. It's all done. To me, that's what this is really about. But maybe it's different strokes, different folks, of what their concerns are. What is your take, and what did you think about that speech? I'm sure you were loving it. All the goodies that you're going to get back, Ernie. Any thoughts?
There's blah, 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 blah. It was going on while we were, at family last night. So on the way back out to the land, which we got, at least an hour and a half drive, I could watch it, listen to it. I want my life back. I mean, that was like, 30 minutes of, sucked brain cells out of my head. It's just same old crap. It's just, for the win, we're winning. And ask me about how much we won. We'll tell you it was a lot and for the win.
Have you heard anything about the Russia ships on Freedom's Phoenix? Anything that come up?
No, I haven't done hardly even looked at anything. I was dealing with all kinds of other stuff. Maybe Donna has because she was populating the site. But we're dealing with, way down the road what's next, and the activism of, freedom's answer, what's the question, philosophy of liberty, self-ownership crap. That is what is, important to me. You're going to hear that from me forever. Occupy the land, dude, solutions. I'm tired of this crap. There's no fixing this. They're not going to come out and say, they're going to say whatever they want to say and reason they say it, and they, float that lead balloon, that Led Zeppelin, they put it out there and they go, they're going to, let's go to war and kick some Venezuela ass and fentanyl. That's a weapon of mass destruction. We got to go bomb some shit, No. At least he didn't, start another war. And that's one thing is that, no, I don't start wars. I'm finishing them, and I don't know what you're doing with Venezuela. It sounds like warlike to me. But I get Maduro's coming out with $100 million, I can go away. Of course, they'll put the second guy in charge, but I mean, all this is total crap because they're not focusing on what the solution is. Now, I expect them to fix it. Yes, I do expect them to fix it. Every single, I take the oath, politician and bureaucrat, whatever, I expect you to unfix it. I mean, take out the fix it's in. And how do you do that? You free the individual. You're free, I'm going golfing. Man, you can golf all day, every day. I don't give a crap. but you're going to free the individual human beings that you are supposed to represent. Is that what they're doing? No. They always think that they know better with their buddies of how they're going to manage and do. And soft, we need lower interest rates and more quantitative easing, which is how we got here to begin with. And they are looking at short term and the number, the retirement of, until we can get a stable coin done, and then we can outlaw competition, and they're not allowed, and do sanctions on if you use the BRICS or the unit or gold, or kind of you're not allowed, and do what we say. It is that over and over and over, and no matter what we were promised by Trump, I could see it was just the principle of them signing, requiring, demanding, using your resources, not signing budget bill, whatever the hell it took for you to keep your promise of releasing the JFK files, releasing the Epstein files. Each administration has the same thing. You got, the JFK files. Maybe what happened to the USS Liberty in the, when Israel was bombing that, strafing that in the mid-'60s. You got the Tonkin, thing got us in Vietnam. You got, COVID. You have the lockdowns. You have the corruption on Wall Street. You got. And what are we going to get? Charlie Kirk's assassination? I mean, I don't believe a damn thing they say, because they're not doing their job. And their job is leave you aloneism. We're here to protect your pursuit of happiness, which means your pursuit of changing your happenstance, your freedom to sustain your life, your liberty to fashion raw materials that will be your property, your land. That was the whole reason for them existing, and it's not even on the list. It's you'll comply or you'll die, one way or the other. And I'm going to comply with what? What the hell we say? Well, what are you going to say? Well, all you got to do is vote and tell us what you want us to say. Yeah, that's the ticket. No. I can't find any justification, having been involved for 40 years doing this. What is it? Yeah, almost 40 years. I've been doing this, and they have not disappointed. They will do exactly what they always do. We rule you, get over it. And anybody that goes in the system to try and fix it gets corrupted. And some animals are more equal than others, and the pigs always get in charge. I mean, this is what happens. So that's my view on it.
So let's end on Rob Reiner. If there's any other thoughts you have on it, let me lead off where I'm just going to say it. I mean, I think Rob Reiner is a great man and a great American, in my opinion. Completely different views politically, but I truly believe he comes at it from a decent perspective. He really wanted best for America. I think just some people you just disagree with, but in their heart, we're on the same team. And I believe, and I heck, if nothing else, you can see, I think sincerely how upset he was when Charlie Kirk died, and his defense of, well, let's just say of opposing those that were ridiculing and mocking Charlie Kirk dying. And then we have our president, who's sinking in the polls, comes out and he made his tweet with Rob Reiner, which I know you read and the audience read, and then he doubled down on it the next day. I can't, it's funny. It's like from before, when he was taking on the left, when the left was attacking him, and he had the moral high ground on these points, and he did it with, let's just say humor and wit. But at this point, Ernie, that tweet, I think that tweet with Rob Reiner truly damaged him, as much as more damage he can still do to himself. But I think it was almost like the icing on top, or the cherry on top of this year of Trump just stepping in it. It's almost like he doesn't know how to read the room anymore. And that's why I believe, by looking at that picture in Vanity Fair of the junkyard dogs, of the junkyard people, I'm not sure how that name was applied, in gesture, what have you. But when you see the neocons around him, you see the people that truly surround him. It's not Steve Bannon. It's not Alex Jones. Donald Trump is not doing his performances anymore. He's not doing his rallies, which would at least got him back out with the base and got him with the people. He's been marginalized within his own administration, and I think, not that I'm trying to defend Trump on this one, Ernie, and you're going to probably take it as such, but I do think he's brilliant in many ways, but also he's very malleable. And he's very manageable when you're able to get his ear and his confidence through loyalty or fake loyalty, whatever it is, and you know how to play him. And politicians have an advantage over business people like Trump. Trump understands business, how to negotiate, but politicians are a different breed. That's why politicians go into that. It's like doctors. Doctors are smart, but doctors make the worst business people. Whereas physicists and mathematicians, they're excellent in math, but they're horrible at like variable science, things where like the art in the science of medicine, the art throws them off, whereas doctors can't understand the true sciences, hence why they're not good at finance. I think that's very similar. Trump understands the business world, negotiations at that level, but politicians are another slimy beast. And I just think he's compromised from his own ego. Whether he knows it or not, I don't know. I think he's going to find out, in my opinion, how Erica Kirk is realizing, wow, I didn't realize how over the head Charlie Kirk, my husband, was when he started to realize he was in a jail cell where he was trapped and didn't realize it, like the python around you. I think Erica's figuring that out. That's my opinion. I think Donald Trump, he's a smart guy and he owns everything he's been doing, especially the Epstein deal. He must have known he was going to destroy his credibility on that one. But I kind of wonder, does he know really how much he's lost credibility with the base and the support overall? I mean, if he's watching Fox News, and Fox is basically the only thing he does is he watches Fox, and he tells Fox. He that's all he does. In fact. There's something really funny about the Fox News. But if that's your only source, and Fox says, oh, Trump's up in the polls again, everyone loves Trump, in his mind, he really is. And then if the sycophant Fox News junkyard guys are around him, they're telling him what he wants to hear, and he's not on the ground anymore, and he's too busy being pulled in all different directions. I'm not trying to take the sword for Trump, guys, trust me. I'm willing to throw the guy under the bus over the Epstein who comment alone, and Ernie knows that. One of the loudest gasps I've ever heard from Ernest Hancock on this show was when I started thumping on Trump on that episode, and Ernie was like, "Oh, you just like let back and let me go," and I think you were aghast to hear not just me, but what probably the transition that's been happening across the country. I mean, if I'm taking my 6-foot Trump guy down from my hallway, just imagine what that means for the country. But does Trump even have an understanding of that happening? I don't think he will until it's too late. So speaking of being in the Fox News bubble, when you get Peter back on the show, did you hear Peter's thing with Trump recently? Did you hear that Trump called Peter a dumbass? Right? He called him names because Trump he turned on the business news on so-called news on Fox. It was like 6 a.m. when they ran this pre-recorded, or I don't know if it's pre-recorded or not, but it was Peter Schiff being interviewed by their business guy early in the morning when the markets were opening. Trump must have been out of bed, putting his tie on, fixing his hair, whatever he does. And he's watching it, and he has no idea who Peter Schiff is. And all he sees is that Fox News puts this, quote, economist on. He was labeled as just some random economist. And, of course, we all know Peter Schiff doesn't have loyalties to parties when it comes to sound money. He'll go after anybody, Democrat, Republican, even a libertarian, if they fall out of line on the principle. So, and everyone probably knows this who's putting Peter Schiff on the air, except Donald Trump. So when they asked Schiff whether, the Trump's new, the tariffs and, the printing money is going to help the economy, he goes, oh, hell no. Schiff is Schiff. He's like, no, that's not going to help. This is going to happen and the money's going to go, going to be debased and blah, blah, blah. Well, Trump flipped out and started tweeting to Fox going, how did you guys put this bozo on the air, this Trump hater? So from Trump's world, if you say anything negative against him, you must be a leftist. And so he, did kind of what he did to Thomas Massie, which is, lob insults at one of the white hats, one of the few people in our movement or the activist movement that we have trust and credibility but Trump's ignorance of who Schiff is, tanked that, assuming that he was just some CNN flunky that got on Fox. So that's the Fox bubble.
Well, one thing I would get, Melania has a new movie coming out at the end of January, and Melania the film exclusively in theaters worldwide on January 30th, 26. Melania is the name of it. The film exclusively in theaters worldwide is going to, and it's got a trailer. I watched the trailer. It's whatever. Mm-hmm. It's from Melania's perspective, and you got to keep in mind she's very intelligent. She's
yes, she is
beautiful, of course, and she speaks at least I think like 5 languages or something. And the future is barren. Maybe some of the other kids. So it's Trump. I can't say that I've been disappointed because I didn't expect that much anyway, but I was hopeful. And the first administration kind of proved the point of what was, whatever. They have the capability of doing, and somebody else is running the shots. And you could go, it's this money, it's this industry, it's this thing, it's his buddies, it's Israel, it's the banks, it's industrial complex, it's threats of, and they, them, those, and intelligence, and aliens, from Alpha and whatever the hell. I don't know, but I don't care. Because, don't sit there and lie to me. Don't take this oath and then just ignore it. Don't, act like you pretend to do your job and you don't. No. So I'm not counting on politics. And so I throw my efforts into not politics. Well, Ernie, if we got together and vote, maybe locally, maybe your county or what, but that was another thing. Michael Crow and the, In-Q-Tel and this influence in Arizona, they control those county supervisors. That, of course, that's what they want to do. And I remember in the mid-'90s when they were trying to do this regional government thing, and they were trying to impose a new layer of legislative government at the county level. And, of course, they started here in Arizona. They were all excited about it. Well, there was just enough libertarian, us, our printing press opposition. It lost 49-point-something to 50-point-something. And I'm just like, whoa, skated that one. And then they went, all in on climate, whatever. I mean, they're never going away until it crashes. And then the great reset of we got a stable coin and we're doing it again kind of thing. And the new constitution for America of something. So this is the solution is not politics. It's philosophy. And that politics is downstream from general public opinion, which is what I can demonstrate, prove, bring up again, do it, but so. I mean, I don't even care about that. Doesn't matter. It's just people pulling themselves away from this crap to eye bounce off of what they want you to be focused on, to put down your freaking digital device for a minute and go watch a flower or something. I mean, be productive. I'm being productive by sharing my tweet with this here AI robot. It's just manipulation. It's thick, and it's always been. And if they can't get you to watch network television now, which is, they even went, I saw a rumor, Candace, they were going to give her CNN or CBS, or she was in line to run that. Boy, they get some credibility then. All these, it's the shiny objects. It's the carrot. There was always that carrot's connected to a stick they'll beat you over with it later. But I've seen people that I know, I respect, often love, and they're part of the movement. But once they get in and they taste the money, they are so, forever does it dominate their life. And what they say, don't say, directions they take, how they say it, what words. Even our video editor, we were showing the sky, and I was just, it was definitely trails, man. Big, what the crap? I go, I'm just saying, this is not normal. I'm old enough, I'm 65. This is not normal. Not normal. I don't know what it is. Not normal. She came back, well, we didn't put this one thing in because, you know, the chemtrail might get you banned. And I go, I don't give a fuck about that. Really? That's why you screw them. I am saying, well, it wasn't me because I didn't say chemtrail. It was Donna. You know, Donna said the word chemtrail, and she just thought not to include that. And I'm going, no, see, this is exactly how they control. Same thing with COVID. Same thing, you know, we have signed, you know, mRNA shots equal GMO humans. Well, they didn't like that one either. And I'm going, no, I'm not playing this game. If that's what it costs me, I get targeted, you know, you can't. No, I'm not having them take an ice cream scoop and scoop out part of my cortex and information that I already know or want to say, and then all of a sudden I'm going to have to dance around that. You know, they get access to my mind, my brain, my opinion. No, that's how they do it. With metrics, with money, with platforming, which is why we focus on all these other techs, the mesh network, you know, the interplanetary file sharing, the digital decentralization of everything, you know, the Xano project, Agorist Market, all this stuff is so that we are in control and decentralized away from this crap so that I can not care and it doesn't matter. That is my goal. Doesn't matter. I don't care because I don't have to. If you're not pursuing that, you're just a slave, a master of slaves, or a master or slave in waiting. That's just it. And definitely setting it up for your progeny, kids and grandkids for the future. It's going to crash. It was inevitable that it does. But they're going to want to be there picking up the pieces. Pick us now, we got a stable coin. So that's my opinion. That's why I do what I do the way I do it. And fortunately, we have financial support from enough people that agree with that, and I'm willing to do it, and they're willing and able to fund me doing it because I do it. If I stopped doing it, I wouldn't get that funding. But then what would I do? Probably a lot of the same stuff, just at a lower level, and I would focus more on what I'm doing here. So as part of, you know, Occupy the Land, it's part of this activism. So that's what we're doing and why. All right, I'm done.
Yep.
What do you got to do,
You know,
Phranq?
I'm done as well. I like to just end on just something completely random about science, just something that just kind of blew my mind. You know, they always talk about how, you know, in time, we always think we're the center of the universe, you know, and then you realize that we're just one planet, you know, amongst other planets, and our sun's not special, and it's got, you know, there's billions of other suns and other galaxies. You always go down that route. Well, science astronomers just found out, or at least, you know, it was a paper published 3 years ago, if you call that just found out. I'm just hearing about it. It's getting through the channels now. Is that there is something that we really are special about our location in the universe, and that is we are in the 5 to 10% of the universe of where we live in a void. And a void is basically an area of space that is like, you know, 20 to 40% fewer galaxies. So most of all galaxies are on these strands, right? They're kind of like strands of galaxies. When you look at the backbone of the universe, which now we can plot, you know, the universe is not just a random, you know, equally spaced galaxies, almost like you threw a bunch of sand in the air and saw them all, you know, just kind of randomly scatter. That's what people often have thought. But it turns out that's not true. And this is where the evidence for dark matter, dark energy come from. And so anyway, I don't want to make this whole, you know, I'm not qualified to make this detailed myself, but think about the universe now. Instead of like a sphere, like a balloon that's just blowing up as it expands, that's what we thought. Think of it more like you're blowing, Carl Sagan actually did this before he died. He did a demo of this. You blow bubbles into like soapy water. And imagine the bubbles all just popping up, almost like a bunches of grapes, right? One bubble on another on another. Well, if you think about it, the surface tension keeps the soap giving the bubble, and there's all these bubbles. The bubbles are the bubbles themselves. If you tap them, that's where they'll pop. But the strongest part of soapy bubbles is where the bubbles conjoin, right? It's kind of like the lines where all the bubbles, when each bubble connects to the other bubble. Well, that's where the thickest amount of water and soap is the connection points. Well, that is how the galaxy or the universe is that there's these strands of like the soapy water where the bubbles meet. That's where most of the galaxies are. So 90% of galaxies apparently are in these strands. But only 10% of galaxies are actually located on the large surface area of the bubble. So the majority of the universe are these big bubbles, kind of the big round part. That's why they call them voids, because there's not many galaxies per capita, I guess, in those regions. So statistically, we should be on one of the strands, but we're not. Now, is that just random, whatever? Also, the science behind how we even found that out, which I'm not going to go into. I'm not qualified. I know a little bit about it. You can check that on your own. I find just how human beings learn these things is almost just beyond fascinating. So you can check that out. But it does makes astronomers and physicists now start to question that. We thought across the universe. Like quantum mechanics works the same everywhere. However, if you're in a very low dense area, which are the voids, versus the higher dense areas on the strands, could like the coefficients, certain coefficients that are used, could they be different? At the most basal level, could reality be a little bit different with that amount of gravity being different in those areas? So anyway, it goes beyond what I can contribute more to the show, but I do kind of always follow the astronomy news. It's been wonderful. During the 70s and 80s, it was planetary science when we sent the Voyager and the Viking crafts, and we were learning about our own solar system. We really knew nothing about outside our solar system. And since the Hubble telescope went up, and now, of course, James Webb, the science of cosmology, which is really what we're talking about, cosmology on the grandest scale, that the research in that world has been almost like biotechnology has been in the sciences here. It's just a field where all these new factors and technology and education are converging, and we're seeing just an explosion of just discoveries about our place in the universe, which is just astounding. I mean, dark matter, dark energy, all of this has been in the last 20 years, 25 years. So to have something new, this pronounced or profound, is pretty cool. I'm going to read more about it, so I'd throw it out. So with that said, Ernie, it was a pleasure chatting with you today. It's been an interesting year. We'll have to talk off air if we're going to do another show before the end of the year, because I guess we might just take 2 weeks off. I mean, if we don't have a New Year's show. If something crazy happens in the world, maybe we can fit in an off-day show, because I'm not working the next week or so.
Well, we got to do a
recap of the year.
Beginning of the year prediction kind of thing, or a recap of the whatever. We'll work on something.
Well, I already have that down. Silver's going to go up. That's about all I have to say.
Yeah. Well, I don't care either way. Whatever. But there is one thing I wanted to put in this show. You don't have to hang out for it, but it was just a few-minute TikTok thing on how the Christmas holiday was really created in the United States. I thought it was fascinating. And it was Easter used to be the big holiday. It was Easter, the death and resurrection of the Savior. I mean, that get up way high on the list rather than he was born. I mean, but it was Easter was the big religious, really Christian holiday. And all it came down to was Coca-Cola. They weren't selling enough Coca-Cola in the winter months, and they wanted to boost sales. So they created the Santa in their red and white colors for Coca-Cola, same color red, and they had him drinking and doing and making it's a big deal, and and then they Kris Kringle and Saint Nick, they kind of combined and put it together. This entire thing of the traditions of Christmas in America was the generation of the marketing department by Coca-Cola, bottom line. And I'm going, whoa. And the thing is like I go, I do the plop plop thing, and I go to Phranq and say, plop plop, fizz fizz. Now he's got his mic muted. But and then everybody, I do, the older guys, they go, oh, what a relief it is. It was just these commercials, this mindset has
Programming.
been, we've been programmed all to hell to have certain opinions about certain things, and it's just that's the way it is. Well, this Christmas holiday, different countries, different traditions, different. But Coca-Cola's worldwide, man. Coca-Cola wants to sell Coke during the winter months. Get over it. Got polar bears. I mean, so this is how they do it, and you could see an entire ecosystem, holiday, gift giving, traditions around, which is fine. I mean, I don't have a problem, with whatever, but it's so Bernays induced. Public relations, Freud's nephew, and Freud, scumbag in amongst of himself. And what they learned was that the masses can be programmed. Well, let's not do that. That'd be wrong. I mean, come on. Of course they're doing it. So that basically, I don't have to show it, but it was just fascinating in such a small amount of time with the evidence of the ads and the timing and the financial motivation and an ad campaign with a company that had the resources to do it could change the culture of an entire country in 1 or 2 seasons. That's what happened. And I'm going, when it used to be Easter. So I'm going, okay, and we are susceptible to this. And exactly why, Corbett and I, push this eye bouncing thing, quit allowing a direct link to the programming. I go to a movie, the trailers, God forbid you see an action flick rated R, it's how many horror flicks you got to watch. And I just close my eyes and hum. I don't care. I don't want to be influenced by it. I used to love going to the movies early because you get 22 and a half minutes of freaking trailers of what's coming, and I don't care. I never mind. Then you have the commercials, all the stuff you're watching some YouTube building house, whatever Vietnamese guy with a stick in the mud making the mansion out of whatever the hell or something, and then all of a sudden they come in with some crap, and I'm like, I just turn the sound off, as soon as I can get to the skip button. Well, if you subscribe and you do, then you don't have to watch it, but then we know everything that you're watching. It's so bad. We have to at least be conscious of it. And to think you're insulated from it by knowing it, you're not. You're going to be programmed. Whatever you open yourself to will program you. And one of the reasons why I'm just take every one of these computers, they have such competing software for open source and Linux now, which is as open source as you can get. And that has the capability of all these others that you're locked in the Windows for and you're not anymore. So I'm making the final push to get off the Windows because it's so bad. And and these platforms and everything, I don't look. I just found out our Occupy X account it says they're not posting when we are, but they aren't. It's the setting of browsers, the how, and the security. What the crap? All right, geek guys, you got to explain this to me. So I'm in the middle of that, of what the hell they're doing and controlling that. So us being activists, the general public opinion, making you aware of who rules you, even if you think you do and you don't, this is important to me because I understand from experience how effective that is to get it at the root before you whack off your weenie and grow breasts, before you allow permanent sterilization of your children, before you vote for a chicken in every pot and a surveillance camera on the front door, before you accept Alexa as your Lord and Savior, before that you need to come in and understand what it's really all about. And Phranq's helping. All right, I'm good. You good?
Yep. Thank you, Ernest. We'll keep in touch soon. I'm sure Trump is the gift that keeps on giving, at least of interesting stories. So let's all pray for a nice, hopefully a safe New Year, although we still have to do the end of the year show. But I'll tell you, I think we just need to strap ourselves in and hold on. All right, my friend. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
All right. Peace.